Welcome to the 50th anniversary of Earth Day.
How beautiful to collectively honor Mother Earth from all over the world. For the past 13 years, the organization Planet Heart has been holding a World Peace and Earth Day celebration that we've held in very special sacred places. But this year, due to, of course, COVID-19, what we call the days of COVID, we're all doing this online, which interestingly comes with a silver lining. And that is that we're able to invite people from all over the world and to do all of that for free. Andrew Kane, who's the producer of the event, felt that for this 50th year, to have people from all over the earth was, as Goldilocks said, just right. So a little bit of history about this special day that we're honoring, Earth Day. In 1970, 20 million Americans, that is some 10% of what was then the American US population, honored this day by taking to the streets and parks across the country, conducting teach-ins, learning and teaching about our relationship to nature. We have come to learn through reflection, meditation, indigenous wisdom, and the wisdom of the ages that nature is not separate from us, but we are it, and it is us. Taking care of Mother Earth is also to take care of ourselves. We've had historically conservationists, nature lovers, and the environmental movement itself could be said to have all started the entire movement with John Muir, the founder of the Sierra Club, back at the end of the beginning of the 20th century. President Teddy Roosevelt also helped to advance the ideas of conservation with the establishing of a national park system. Decades later, naturalist Rachel Carson, author of The Silent Spring, who riveted our attention to the serious destruction of marshes and animal habitat, and of course our own, was really, you could say, the springboard of what we have today as the modern movement. 1970 is what we refer to as the beginning of the modern environmental movement, even though so much has happened for so long, going back to the indigenous people from all corners of the earth, to the Taoists and all other people connected to the earth. That was our way. But for Westerners, and after so much destruction that we have seen to our beautiful planet, we mark the beginning of the environmental movement really with the beginning of Earth Day, April 22nd, 1970. So interestingly, it should also be said that it was a Republican, President Nixon, who signed the Clean Water Act just after the Earth Day event, the Clean Air Act, and established the Environmental Protection Agency. Our cities and waterways were getting cleaned. And now, it also needs to be said, 50 years later, a different Republican president has reversed virtually all of the legislative acts of his predecessor and has really gutted the EPA. What were major steps forward became, in short order, major steps back. So our spirit now is doubly challenged, but our resolve and commitment is unstoppable. We are fighting for a favorable outcome for our species and all sentient life. And today's event is a symbol and a signal of exactly that. We have many organizations these days who are doing extraordinary acts of love and kindness toward Mother Earth on all levels, through ritual, through ceremony, through business, through legislation, some, and especially on more local levels, through organic growing without pesticides and chemicals. People care. The Sunrise Movement, the Pachamama Alliance, Citizens Climate Lobby, dozens upon dozens of people rising up to meet the challenge. Paul Hawken, in one of his books, Blessed Unrest, names thousands of organizations, NGOs, social enterprise activities that are deeply engaged in making this world a better place, cleaner, environmentally resolved, and cleansed from the damage that we have done for so long. And that brings us to today's event. The challenges are many, but the care, the respect, the love of Mother Earth, the love of life itself is plentiful among our esteemed roster of presenters today, and I am sure that we're all in for a very special time. As the evening proceeds, you will feel increasingly that you are part of a very welcoming, loving community, celebrating what is so dear to us. And that's exactly what we want. We have speakers, indigenous ceremony, musicians, and a lot of good cheer. So just a note of simple housekeeping. About 2 minutes prior to the end of each presenter or musician, I'm going to be hitting a bell, and that's a signal that you have 2 more minutes. And then if you hear another bell, that means really wrap it up. And I'll be beginning an introduction to the next speaker. So with that, I want to thank you all for being here from all parts of the world. And I want to just take one moment among us all to thank those people that are keeping our society rolling, that are taking care of the people who have been infected by the COVID-19 in hospitals and doctors' offices and clinics around the world. These people are true heroes. They are fighting for life, and they deserve to be honored by us today. So with that said, we can begin the first ceremony.
Oh, Holy Father, Mother God, great universal I am presence, creator and giver of eternal love, we bow before thee. Accept our offerings this day and always. We, thy children, come before thy grace as one voice, one heartbeat, one desire to offer our humble gratitude and prayers, lifting our hearts and consciousness to honor thee and our Holy Mother Earth, to honor the heavenly kingdom who assist us continuously, to honor the ascending human kingdom, animal kingdom, vegetable kingdom, and the mineral kingdom, to honor the precious elements of air, fire, water, and earth, the kingdom of nature and the nature spirits, all serving humanity continuously. We offer praise for thy service. O merciful God, grant us the opportunity to redeem ourselves. Grant us the wisdom to understand the magnitude of thy blessings of love, emanating through the holy virtues of faith, hope, wisdom, charity, constancy, purity, honesty, mercy, justice, compassion, fortitude, harmony, truth, peace, forgiveness, the power of unconditional love as the golden key to freedom. All these blessings are encoded in each and every one of us. Illumine us. Illumine us to discover and take ownership of these gifts by personal application, to free us from the hypnotic state of false illusions, of separation, false power, of limitations of fear. O Father of eternal love, grant us the spiritual courage and the fortitude to overcome the challenges before us, the humility and reverence for the sanctity of all life. O Holy Spirit, assist us in our service to life, to be the comforting presence to all who are in distress, to comfort the souls before they make the transition, so they may quickly awake into the light and find their peace. We pray for the comfort and solace of all the loved ones. We pray for all who are in the front lines serving those in distress. We bless them. We pray for wisdom, for the leaders, for the wisdom of the leaders, that they may execute their duties in good conscience, knowing that their deeds are accountable to higher laws. We pray for forgiveness. We kneel before the law of divine justice for all the pain we had inflicted upon each other, for the desecration of our Holy Mother Earth. As we journey forward in thy love, behold thy children coming together to heal the earth and to heal each other, to restore the sanctity of family life. At last, thy children are awakening to our reality as one spiritual family, praying for to be worthy of thy grace in the fulfillment of our divine destiny. So be it, and so it is, ever expanding and world encompassing. We accept this done in thy holy name, in thy holy way, in thy holy love. Amen and amen. In thy name I am.
Thank you so much. Very beautiful, beautiful way to open us and our evening. Now we'll be hearing for a few minutes from Rick Olphick, who is the founder of We the World and the We campaign at we.net. We the World creates and promotes programs, platforms, and campaigns that unite and amplify the efforts of changemakers working for peace, for justice, sustainability, and transformation. Rick is the co-creator of the annual 11 Days of Global Unity, September 11th to 21st, the 11 Campaigns for Change, a platform for people and organizations worldwide with participants that have included Desmond Tutu, Jane Goodall, Deepak Chopra, Daniel Ellsberg, Marianne Williamson, Ralph Nader, Robert Thurman, and many, many others. Rick is also, in his own work, prior to having started all of this, an award-winning composer and keyboard player who has performed with Queen Latifah, Phoebe Snow, Carlos Santana, Bernadette Peters, and Judy Collins, to name a few. Rick.
Thank you so much, Mitchell. I'm having a little technical challenge here, but I think it's happening. Okay, so here we go. Okay,
You're our technical master. So
yeah,
it's important you get it.
it's there are a few things that are, you know, with all of these participants and all these amazing participants, it's kind of slowing the whole system down.
Oh, that means we're shifting the planet already.
Exactly. One Zoom meeting at a time. So anyway, thank you so much, Mitchell, and welcome everyone to this incredible event. It's an honor and an inspiration to be part of this World Peace Earth Day celebration. I want to express deep gratitude to all the speakers and performers and everyone who worked to make this event possible, especially Andrew Kane, who has been producing this extraordinary event with We the World for 13 years now. Congratulations, Andrew. So,
I second that.
yes, exactly. So today, Earth Day is the culmination of what We the World calls Earth Month, which starts on the original Earth Day proposed by our dear friend John McConnell to be the to start on the equinox itself. So the original Earth Day was right on March 20th, the change of the seasons. And I want to give a shout out to Mary Carlin, Helen Garland, and others with the Earth Society Foundation who have been celebrating Equinox Earth Day all this time. Thank you. Journalist and activist Bill McKibben has been warning about global warming for over 30 years. Today, he gave a stark look back and he said that over the last 50 years, we've lost half the sea ice in the summer, in the Arctic in the summer. The chemistry of the oceans has changed dramatically. We've lost some of the biggest living things on the earth, like the Great Barrier Reef, the large parts of our rainforest, and half the wild animals in the world are dead now compared to 40 years ago, according to the World Wildlife Fund. 11 years ago, Bill McKibben made one of the first videos to support We the World's launch of our We campaign. He called it Why We and Why Now? And that question couldn't be more important even right now. So the coronavirus pandemic makes it clear that the well-being of all members of society and the very survival of society itself depends on the health and well-being of each member of society. And that is the essence of we consciousness and a we-based society, which is what We the World and our We campaign at we.net are working toward. At this crisis moment, if we want a we-based society, then dividing Americans is not helpful when it is so important for us to come together to address COVID-19 as well as the climate crisis. For example, the divisive idea of an immigration ban at this moment to save some jobs totally ignores the millions of American jobs that continue to be lost due to outsourcing by corporations in China and other parts of the world, as well as the big push to expand automation. Also, the divisive idea of opening up the American economy before we have enough testing in place to know exactly where the virus is means that many more people beyond the heroic essential workers will have to risk exposing themselves and their families to the virus by going back to work. So we have the opportunity to work together to end all of these divisive policies and create a true we-based society that prioritizes the common good. To help get there, on the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, let's listen to those who will inherit the Earth, our children. Our program, An Urgent Message from Your Children at weyourchildren.org, features children 12 years old and younger speaking in their own words to adults, expressing their fears, concerns, and their hopes for the future of the planet, making an appeal to all of us to respond with appropriate urgency. You can share their video messages and get involved by going to weyourchildren.org. We invite everyone listening to step up and be part of the movement to make a cultural shift from I to we, from me to we, so that the health and well-being of all is prioritized and no one is left behind. You can learn more and get involved by going to we.net. As Jonathan Granoff said, and we'll be hearing from him shortly, as Jonathan Granoff said when we launched the We campaign and we.net 11 years ago, he said, I hope we expand so much that there is no longer any them. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
And welcome.
Thank you so much, Rick Olphick. You've been a tremendous contributor to the world, We the World, and to our event this evening. So truly thank you. And we, by the way, is us, as I'm sure everyone put together.
That's it. Thank you.
Sure. Next, we have the founder and principal organizer of Planet Heart's annual World Peace and Earth Day celebration, which began in 2007 in New York City, Andrew Kane. He is one of the coordinators for the 2004 launch of We the World's 11 Days of Global Unity, and has been involved with spiritual and peace events and organizations for over 20 years. He is Ambassador for Peace, who is a vibrational sound channel, healer, and poet with sacred sounds and spiritual songs about peace and oneness. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everyone who is tuning in from around the world. We thank you for choosing to be with us in these uncertain times. This is the first time that we are doing our event fully online, which many others are likely doing as well. For 12 years, we've been doing a live event in New York City. The past few years, we streamed it live globally. Today, we bring you Earth Day from the comforts of our homes. The purpose of why I do these events is to be bringing people together in community, helping us to realize and remember that we are all one, and we need to work together collectively to co-create for a better world and humanity. Let us also remember to honor the animal and plant kingdoms for Earth Day, and we must be conscious of nature, that without our environment, such as our beloved trees, we would not be here tonight. To me, every day is Earth Day, but let's take April 22nd, 2020, the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, and connect our hearts to the beat of the planet and all sentient beings. And let's heal our hearts. We have all gone through a lot in our lives lately, especially with this COVID-19, which has caused us to go inside. Create your life and don't let anyone stop you. Find your passion and live it. Be alive like there was no other day like today. I'd like to share with you a line from one of my poems. Be at the heart of your own creation. Be at the heart of your own creation. And on that tone, together we can make a difference. And now it is time to celebrate our planet and heal our heart. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Andrew, and for all the work you've done to make this happen this year and in the past. God bless.
Thank you.
Now, Peter Rogina with the Peace Lights.
Hello, everybody. This just fell from behind me. Greetings. This is the fourth year that Peace Lights is a part of this this great event. So thank you to Andrew, and it's beautiful to be doing this at the same time when we have a golden jubilee going on. So the Peace Lights you see in one of the windows here, my phone just died, so there it is. It's coming up as Peace Lights. That has been around for 5 years. In fact, the first time it ever was brought out into the public was 5 years ago today. And what happened was the New York Peace Coalition had adopted Peace Lights as their international symbol of peace and nonviolence. And today, 5 years ago, peace organizations from 14 other countries adopted Peace Lights as their international symbol of peace and nonviolence. So it's played on 6 or 7 continents. Later that summer, the United Nations International Year of Light endorsed Peace Lights. And here we are today. So the colors represent the different cultures of the world. And the motion represents how those cultures interact and work together to achieve harmony and peace and good energy. And you'll see the word Peace Lights come up in 55 different languages throughout. And you'll also see the 30 human rights come up in both English and French. But the thing is that we're in this situation now around the world where as we come out of this COVID restriction time period and have a recalibrated sense of the scale of things and the interconnectedness of things, there's great power in anything that can connect people from far away with a common experience. So the notion of having Peace Lights play, for example, in congregations as religions start to come back, and have the message that people, wherever Peace Lights play, people are encouraged to project their own thoughts and intents for peace into the lights. That's a very powerful notion. And that's a very empathy-inducing sort of sentiment that is nicely complemented by lights that have a good energy. So it's great to be back here. Thank you very much for everybody for your ongoing support. And I'm going to post a link to the YouTube of Peace Lights in the chat here in a second. And if you want to try and put it on your phone and let it be behind you somewhere in your field of view, that'd be great. But this is all new for us also. We're doing a bunch of these things. We just got 501c3 status for the Africa activity, and we have 4 interns. So you'll be hearing a lot more of Peace Lights and seeing a lot more Peace Lights coming forward in this coming year. So thank you much. Great to be here. Happy Earth Day, everybody.
Thank you, Pete. So appreciate your commitment to peace and the interesting way you have of expressing it. Really creative. Thank you so much. And next, we have, going back to the energy of the indigenous, which, as you can see, is suffusing our evening, as is so appropriate. And I have said to myself so many times that had we simply listened to the indigenous voices from all over the world for the last century or two, we would not be in this position. But we haven't listened. But now, as a collective, I believe more and more people are. And that's empowering for everyone. And so it's with a real great honor to bring forth Daryl Neal and Bill Garrett. Daryl, also known as Two Feathers, was born in New York City and raised by his mother in Edenton, North Carolina. And he is of Southeast Cherokee and African Fulani descent. He received a BA in History and Political Science from Fayetteville State University, and he served in the U.S. Air Force. He worked at the U.S. Department of State Consular Affairs Division for 26 years. Two Feathers is the co-founder of the Cherokee Language and Cultural Circle between 1996 and 2000. He is currently retired. It's hard to see that by his incredibly continued diligent work, and he has been a volunteer working with the Harlem Climate Caucus under the direction of Bill Garrett. He will be doing and sharing his time with Bill Garrett, who is the chairman and founder of the Harlem Climate Caucus and has a long record of working to advance clean, sustainable energy and new space-age materials to correct climate issues. The Harlem Climate Caucus is a grassroots organization working for a safe planet and introducing technologies that can do that within a decade of being funded. So, Two Feathers and Bill, thank you. Two Feathers, are you around? Dear audience, please bear with us.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Ah, you're here. That's your signal. You're on.
Yes. Welcome everybody across the world and who's ever watching. My name is Two Feathers. I'm Chalagi from North Carolina descent. I just would like to say that we have a small window to save Mother Earth. Right now, she's hurting very much. You can see the way she's reacting to the demise of the air and the fresh water and just the planet itself. And I just want to remind people that this is the only planet we have. There is no other Earth. And if we don't take care of it, our future is going to look mighty grim. Back in 2018, I joined with Bill Garrett, who is head of the Harlem Climate Caucus, to try and start some energy programs to try and save the earth from its demise right now. And he's a great man, very smart, very dedicated to working with trying to reverse greenhouse gases. So at this moment, I thank you all.
Thank you, Two Feathers. I want to introduce one of our keynote speakers, Dr. Guy McPherson, who is an American scientist, professor emeritus of natural resources and ecology and evolutionary biology at the University of Arizona. He is best known for promoting the idea of near-term extinction, NTE, a term he coined about the possibility of human extinction as soon as 2030. In May of 2009, McPherson began transitioning to living on an off-grid homestead in southern New Mexico. Guy authors a blog called Nature Bats Last that focuses on global climate change, energy decline, and the possibility of human extinction due to the increasing accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. On November 1st, 2015, Guy McPherson was interviewed by Bill Nye on National Geographic Explorer. Guy has been a guest on A Better World radio and TV a couple of times. I feel what he has to share with us is of tremendous importance, and it's with great love and respect that I have invited Guy to join us today. Thank you so much, Guy.
Thank you, Mitchell. I appreciate it very much. I'm going to try to share my screen. Wish me luck, and that will allow you to see some slides. There we go, more or less. I am Professor Emeritus of Conservation Biology at the University of Arizona, and as a consequence, I will be speaking about some evidence today. I was asked to speak about the evidence underlying climate change. You can find everything that I'm going to say today and a lot more, if you're not depressed enough when I'm done, at guymcpherson.com. That is the blog that Mitchell mentioned, Nature Bats Last. The question I have for today, and I will start with it and I will come back around to it, is what shall we do? What shall we do? What is worth doing? And most of us ask these questions initially at the level of family and friends, and then at the level of community. Some people ask them at the level of society. And I have a quote there attributed to Gloria Steinem, indicating that the evidence I present might indeed set you free, but first it won't necessarily make you very happy. The questions have never been more pressing. What shall we do? What is worth doing in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of a mass extinction event, in the midst of abrupt, irreversible climate change? And so I would ask you to consider those three levels of organization: family and close friends, community and society, as I go through this series of slides with you. First, we'll start with the pandemic, and I will spend just a little bit of time sharing evidence about each of those three topics. The current pandemic has been described and predicted by many scientists, primarily epidemiologists, in the past. As a minor example, I was delivering the commencement address back in August of 2007, nearly 13 years ago, and I was focusing on the four horsemen of the apocalypse, as described in the Gospel of John. I indicated that we'll see pestilence in the near future, what we call disease, when it happens one person at a time, making a big comeback. And here, not surprisingly, we are. We're also in the midst of a mass extinction event. There have been six previous planetary history. We are in the midst of the seventh. Most people think that it's the sixth because it was described that way for a long time. But then quite recently, another extinction event was found and reported in the peer-reviewed literature. A mass extinction event occurs when at least 50% of the species on the planet go extinct. We're in the midst of the Anthropocene, which is ongoing. According to the United Nations Environment Program, in a report released August of 2010, we are driving to extinction some 150 to 200 species per day. That was their estimate in 2010. Subsequently, based on empirical evidence, we know that the numbers are higher than that. We are actually driving to extinction more than 200 species every day. And yet, in the peer-reviewed literature, in this case in Science Advances, the report is that we are entering the sixth mass extinction in 2015. We had already been in that current ongoing seventh mass extinction event for a while at that point. Lead author of the paper, Gerardo Ceballos, points out that life would take many millions of years to recover, and our species itself would likely disappear early on. 2 years later, approximately, again in the peer-reviewed literature, the title of the paper includes the words biological annihilation, words that I had never seen previously in the peer-reviewed literature and have only seen one time since this paper came out in July of 2017. As the second author of both of those papers points out, Paul Ehrlich, the conservation biologist, quote, "We're toxifying the entire planet." Currently, the rate of change, the rate of environmental change, which is what I studied as a conservation biologist for many years and continue to study, the rate of environmental change is outstripping the ability of vertebrates and mammals to keep up. And we are vertebrate mammals. According to a 2013 paper, again peer-reviewed, and using the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's gradualist approach, the environmental change is proceeding 10,000 times faster than vertebrates can adapt. More recently, Davis and colleagues report that mammal diversity will require millions of years to recover from the current biodiversity crisis. And even if extinction rates slow to pre-anthropogenic background levels, which is difficult for me to imagine, recovery will likely take millions of years. So we're talking about an event, a mass extinction event, which has happened in the past on planet Earth, and which, based on those events, points us to real trouble. We're in the midst of abrupt, irreversible climate change. Dan Coates, a relatively conservative individual, director of national intelligence for the United States in the Trump administration, took to Capitol Hill in February of 2018, a little more than 2 years ago, to warn of abrupt climate change. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, one of the most conservative scientific bodies in world history, indicated in their September 2019 report that climate change is irreversible, and they attributed this to a too warm and continuing to warm ocean on Earth. As with other organisms, human animals require habitat. I turned to the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary for the simplified definition of habitat: the place or environment where a plant or animal naturally or normally lives and grows. Where do we naturally or normally live and grow? Right here on Earth, in a variety of ecosystems. We can survive for a while on the International Space Station, in nuclear submarines, at McMurdo Station in Antarctica, but those places are not habitat for human animals. Indeed, we have to transport in the ability to drink and eat and dispose of bodily fluids, not to mention maintain the body temperature, into each of those three locations. So when we think about habitat, we generally think about other organisms, but the idea applies to human animals as well. It could be that we have locked in human extinction due to loss of habitat via the death by 1,000 cuts route. After all, an increase of 1.5 degrees, this means 1.5 degrees above the 1750 baseline, will lead to the extinction of humankind altogether. That's the worst case scenario presented in April of 2019 in a paper published by the European Strategy and Policy Analysis System. So this is a comprehensive summary and analysis of where we were at the time, just about a year ago. Well, at that time, and for about 2 years before then, Earth was at least 1.73 degrees above the 1750 baseline. That was the highest global average temperature with Homo sapiens present on this planet. And consequently, we have passed the 2 degrees Celsius above the 1750 baseline that we have been warned about for many years as the point we absolutely could not cross. And that appears to have occurred in February of this year. I'm going to talk very briefly about 2 potential sources of loss of habitat for human animals. There are several other means by which we could lose habitat as well. And I'm just going to talk about these 2, coined the McPherson paradox by Bill Eddy, a friend and supporter. We can either increase or rather continue industrial activity, which further heats the planet, and I'll describe how quickly shortly, or we can decrease industrial activity, which heats the planet even faster. Most people are not familiar with the latter concept, so I'll spend a few minutes talking about it. First, civilization itself as a heat engine. Tim Garrett, professor of atmospheric sciences at the University of Utah and formerly department head of the atmospheric sciences department, treats civilization as a heat engine in a series of papers that he has had published in the peer-reviewed literature. And what he means by this, and the idea supported by abundant evidence, is that it doesn't really matter whether we power industrial civilization with fossil fuels or with wind turbines and solar panels. Regardless, civilization acts like a heat engine and continues to overheat a planet that already has a fever. How fast? According to a peer-reviewed article by Burke and colleagues published late December 2018 in, again, a peer-reviewed journal, Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, quote, our study suggests that climates like those of the Pliocene will prevail as soon as 2030 in the current era and persist under climate stabilization scenarios. The Pliocene, the mid-Pliocene, is about 2 to 3 degrees Celsius warmer than we are today. This paper is based on the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change's representative concentration pathways, which have been repeatedly shown to be far too conservative. So it would surprise me if it took until 2030 maintaining industrial civilization. If it only takes that long to get to Pliocene style conditions, I would be very surprised. What about decreased industrial activity? How does that operate? Most people are unfamiliar with this idea. You can see Homer Simpson there lying with the sleeping bag and the pillow that are methane and carbon dioxide, 2 greenhouse gases that are relatively well known. Water vapor is a 3rd greenhouse gas, as there are 40 more. So they continue to warm the planet, but at the same time, industrial activity produces these greenhouse gases. Industrial activity also puts the aerosols into the atmosphere, and these aerosols act as something like an umbrella to prevent sunlight from reaching the Earth to begin with, and therefore heating it. So as long as we have the aerosol masking effect, sometimes called global dimming, in place with these aerosols, we will continue to keep our planet relatively cool. Now, the really bad news is that the heating locked in from carbon dioxide at the current level, the heating will continue for at least the next 1,000 years, again, according to the peer-reviewed literature. And the aerosol masking effect, to which we are contributing daily with industrial activity, goes away in somewhere between 5 days and 6 weeks. 5 days, according to James Hansen and colleagues, and about 6 weeks seems to be the consensus among other climate scientists. So if we lose global dimming or the aerosol masking effect, we will experience a very abrupt rise in global average temperature, far faster than almost any species on the planet will be able to keep up with. The evidence points to about a 20% reduction in industrial activity, leading to a 1 degree Celsius temperature rise. And this based on a series of papers that I'll mention a couple of shortly. And if that's the case, if the evidence actually is accurate, then COVID-19 might cause the extinction of humans, and therefore the extinction of all life on Earth. And I'll point to those connections shortly. Already at about approximately 2 degrees Celsius above the 1750 baseline, we're seeing fires, the likes of which we are unable to keep under control. We are seeing floods that are destroying crops. We're seeing droughts that are destroying crops. We're seeing floods and droughts sometimes within a year. For example, in the central United States over the course of the last year and a half. These are the kinds of events that are contributing to the removal of habitat for our species. We've been fortunate so far in that the apparent reduction in the aerosol masking effect due to COVID-19 occurred early this year. So all of the trees had their carbohydrate stored and ready to leaf out this year. The fires hadn't started yet when the COVID-19 crisis broke out early this year. And I strongly suspect we will witness the consequences of that 20% reduction in industrial activity in the relatively near future. And here I'm talking about during the coming fire season, the wildfire season, and also during the flooding and drought season in various parts of the planet. The aerosol masking effect, according to the lead author of the paper listed there at the bottom, Rosenfeld, in the premier scientific journal, Science, released on February 8th of 2019, the Sustainability Times did an interview with Rosenfeld shortly before that paper came out and concluded that the cooling impact of the aerosol particles, much of which are pollution that humans have been pumping into the atmosphere, is nearly twice what scientists previously thought. Now, the paper by Rosenfeld and colleagues in Science cites the paper by Levy et al. In Journal of Geophysical Research, Atmospheres. And that paper, the one by Levy and colleagues, found that as little as a 35% reduction in industrial activity will trigger a 1 degree Celsius global average temperature rise. So it seems that if the masking has been underestimated by half, then as little as a 20% decrease in industrial activity will trigger this kind of temperature rise. I think that has already happened. It's already underway as a result of reduced industrial activity, first in China, then in India, and now in a large region of Eurasia. But we just haven't observed the impacts yet because it happened at just the right time. If we see the crop failures I expect later this year, then it will be pretty easy to attribute the crop failure to the loss of the aerosol masking effect. Well, extinction of all life on Earth, that seems crazy until you look again at the peer-reviewed literature, in this case, the paper in Scientific Reports, that for the second time ever in my extensive career as an academic scientist, I've seen the word annihilate or annihilation in the title. Co-extinctions annihilate planetary life during extreme environmental change. What's extreme environmental change? According to this paper, 5 to 6 degrees Celsius global average temperature rise. We're about 2 degrees above the 1750 baseline. We could easily see an additional 6 or 8 degrees as a result of environmental changes going on right now. In fact, in an interview of Strona conducted coincident with the release of this paper, Australia's SBS News reports, our paper demonstrates that even the most tolerant species ultimately succumb to extinction when the less tolerant species on which they depend disappear. Sorry, I'm a little distracted by the apparent child who's hacked into the system and is spelling words out on my screen here, and presumably on yours too. It seems the paper could not have drawn more attention to humans. Our paper demonstrates that even the most tolerant species, for example, those capable of living at McMurdo Station in Antarctica or capable of living in the International Space Station, will ultimately succumb to extinction when the less tolerant species on which they depend disappear. And here I'm thinking about filter feeders that keep our water clean. I'm thinking about pollinators that pollinate our crops and give us the food to eat, and the decomposers that break down woody material into soil so that we are allowed to repeat the cycle of growing food yet again. So I suspect that any one of 3 factors could lead to the extinction of all life on Earth: the ongoing rapid rate of climate change, therefore environmental change, loss of the aerosol masking effect, or even a reduction of the aerosol masking effect, which would accelerate that environmental change even faster, or the catastrophic uncontrolled meltdown of 450 and change nuclear power plants that dot the planet and would leave us bathing in ionizing radiation. So the question then comes up, what shall we do? What is worth doing? And I encourage you to ask these questions of yourself, of your community, of your family and friends, perhaps even of society, now that we're in the midst of a pandemic, in the midst of a mass extinction event, and in the midst of what appears to be abrupt, irreversible climate change. I have not, nor would I ever, propose inaction in response to the crisis we find ourselves in. One of the influential people in my early life was Edward Abbey, the desert anarchist and author of many books, who routinely wrote that action is the antidote to despair, and occasionally he wrote sentiment without action is the ruin of the soul. I have been participating in action trying to ward off the crisis or make it less bad for most of my adult life. Somebody with which most of you are perhaps more familiar with is Viktor Frankl, the Jew incarcerated by the Nazis during World War II. And in his 1946 book, Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl writes, between a stimulus and a response, there is a space. And I would argue that I'm providing the stimulus and the response is up to you. In that space between the stimulus and the response is the power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. The last of human freedoms is to choose one's attitude in any set of circumstances. And I would argue, in addition, that we have the ability to choose our actions in any set of circumstances. Now, Viktor Frankl faced some truly heinous times in concentration camps in Nazi Germany, and yet he saw people around him, including him, acting with great kindness, giving the last of their crumbs to somebody else who they deemed needed them more. If Viktor Frankl and his contemporaries in Nazi Germany could choose one's attitude in any set of circumstances as they feared death at any moment, then I suspect we are capable of doing the same. And I would encourage all of us to think about that. Taking that a step further, I see a lot of people acting like the gentleman in the panel on the left. Recognizing that life is short, they spend as much time as possible on the internet arguing with strangers about politics. I've been there, guilty as charged, many times myself. Today, however, I try to spend as much time as I can with the people I love, including my partner shown there, with whom I occasionally have the opportunity to dance. even in this rental home we occupy, because we can still play music. We can still connect on a very physical, visceral, and intimate basis in our everyday lives. I'll quote just another individual that most of you have probably heard of, Ralph Waldo Emerson, the American writer. The purpose of life is not to be happy. And that comes as a surprise to most of my students when I inform them that the purpose of their life is not to be happy. It is instead to be useful, to be honorable, to be compassionate, to have made some difference, that you have lived and lived well. I have tried to pursue a useful life and will continue to do so in the classroom, submitting to interviews and delivering presentations, lately, of course, remotely, such as this one. That's my choice. That's how I have decided to pursue my life. And as it turns out, becoming useful has, for me, made me happy. I'm not happy about the message I'm delivering, but being useful allows me to experience joy in my life because I'm able to connect with people on a meaningful and joyful basis. As Homer pointed out in the Iliad some 2,800 years ago, any moment might be our last. Everything is more beautiful because we are doomed. And Homer in the previous paragraph was describing why the gods envy us. The gods envy us exactly because any moment might be our last. The gods don't have that privilege. The gods have to persist forever. They never need to stop to smell the flowers. The flowers will be there forever if you're the gods. You will never be lovelier than you are now. We will never be here again. Let's take advantage of this time. I have for many years proposed the idea of planetary hospice, and this can take place at several different levels as well. At the level of individuals, family, friends, everyone around you is a beloved elderly mother, and treat those people accordingly. At the societal level, there are many things we can do, and I've described many of them at GuyMcPherson.com at Nature Bats Last. And I would encourage you, after we're done here, and I realize I've run out of time, to spend time investigating the kinds of things we can do as we enter a period of planetary hospice for a dying planet in light of abrupt, irreversible climate change and a pandemic and a mass extinction event. Thank you all very much for your attention. Thank you to Mitchell and the crowd for inviting my participation here. If you want to contact me further, you can find my email address at GuyMcPherson.com. Thank you very much.
Guy McPherson, thank you so much. It is a sobering presentation, to put it mildly, and it's also invigorating because at the end of the day, if I may just say, we meet our maker. And we can do it with a sense of dignity, and we can live a life well spent. As one of my great mentors, Werner Erhard, said, that what he wanted on his epitaph was to say, totally spent. So the point is well made. I'll be talking about some of the points you made in my talk a little later. So thank you, thank you. And a message about kindness and being good to each other, I think, is a very important takeaway that I take from all that you were sharing. So thank you. Heidi Little. Let me do a little introduction of this lovely woman. And that is to say, once I find your bio, which I have here, it is a love and light vocalist, award-winning songwriter, performance and recording artist, and a self-love empowerment re-educator, a planetary children's advocate, and director of International Children's Month. So Heidi, welcome to our beautiful event tonight.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes, absolutely sobering presentation. But I was asking myself the same questions this day. You know, we're celebrating Earth Day and it's a celebration, yet we still have so much to conquer and to figure out how we're going to move forward and what we're going to do as we move through this portal to make this into a different vision, right? Something that everyone is involved in and activated in as love in action. So I'd like to just ask everyone to connect to their heart for a second and just imagine a seed of light in your heart that glows and grows. And as we breathe in the love and we breathe out the love, that light grows and it fills us. And as we connect to our earth and connect to our spirit, we find inside of ourselves the well to draw from to move forward as love in action and become the change that we must become. And it's up to all of us. It can't just be a handful of people or a few people. It must be our human family, because this is our home. And I know we love it. And I know we love the water. I see us at the beaches. I see us in the forest. I see us, you know, together as love in action. And I know far too many beautiful people who are committed to co-creating something that works for everyone. So thank you on behalf of all of the children and youth on the planet for anything that you will choose to do from here on out differently, and who you will choose to gather with in your communities, in your homes, and online. And thank you to We the World for having a consciousness moving from I to we. And thank you to Andrew Keen for putting together all these beautiful people with Planet Heart. I mean, what better way to express it, right, than Planet Heart? There it is, right? Our hearts are connected to the heart of Mother Earth, and our spirits are connected to the omnipresent source of life that births all things. And that's my viewpoint. You can approve of it or go on your merry way. But regardless, let's make sure we keep the water and the air clean so we can continue to agree to disagree. And on that note, I'm going to play the message from Mother Earth, and it's called One. And in 2009, I was laying in the grass, completely distraught about the directions we were headed. We had worked really hard to get single stream recycling into Austin, Texas. We had finally overcome that. My days picking up trash with my little 2-year-old daughter along the streets ended. And we started to actually be able to collect them and put them in bins. And I asked the earth, open, what do you need the people to hear? And this is what she said. So she said, been distracted by foolishness and doubt, beauty to breathe, depletion of non-renewable resource, time to testify this dream is real. One heart, one world, one song, one new day has dawned. Time to testify this life is real. The chance has been taken. No more room to weep. Solution. one heart, one world, one song, one dream, one life, one. And now, there's more. Hang tight. She said, sing it from the so been distracted by foolishness and doubt, beauty to breathe, depletion of non-renewable resource, time to testify this life is real. One heart, one word, one song, one. New day has dawned, time to testify this life is real. The chance has been taken, no more room to weep. Solution, one heart, one world, one song, one dream, one life, one. Sing it from the mountain, sing it from the shore, sing it from wherever you find yourself living for. Sing it for your freedom, sing it for your friends, sing it from the place inside of you that never ends. Sing it for our children, sing it for the love, sing it from the place inside of you that's rising up. You know we have begun living life as one. I see you rising. Love you.
Beautiful, Heidi. Thank you so much.
That was awesome.
Ah, yes. Oh, yes. So it's so nice to have a little music in between our talks and our presenters, bringing us to another level of our hearts and our humanity. And that's what you just did, Heidi. So thank you. Thank you. So now we are going to move into, actually, it's going to be slightly different than what we've been doing of just a speaker. I'm going to introduce my colleague and dear friend, Ellie Lesson. We know each other through the Pachamama Alliance and the Drawdown World, which we'll be speaking about a little bit. In this case, I'm going to do a little bit of an interview of Ellie, and that way we'll get to handle the next few interesting points of what many of us are doing relative to reversing the irreversible, of challenging any paradigm that suggests that we cannot accomplish our goals, as challenging as they may be. So on that note, I'm going to introduce Ellie. I somehow see Catherine Davis there for the moment, but
I'm here.
There's my dear Ellie. Okay. So, Rick, I don't know if you'll be able to split screen or anything, but let me just say a few words about Ellie. She is a seasoned professional executive producer of a large-scale global and national events. While currently semi-retired at this point, her last event in the wake of the Me Too movement and the Up to Us movement was the commemoration of International Women's Day for the United Nations in the UN's iconic General Assembly Hall. Ellie also heads up Drawdown, a series of solutions proposed by hundreds of environmental scientists from around the world that were brought together in a compendium called Drawdown by Paul Hawken and Catherine Wilkinson, both of whom have been guests on A Better World Radio and are definitely mentors of mine. So
and Mitchell, why don't I tell people who you are?
Yeah.
So when you can, then you can proceed with the interview. How's that?
Voila.
Okay. So Mitchell Rabin is an international speaker, impassioned environmentalist, and I'm going to switch views here. Yes, he's an impassioned environmentalist, stress management consultant, and host of A Better World TV and radio, which has been on the air since 1993. He is founder, president, and CEO of A Better World Foundation, a nonprofit organization which uses media, education, communications, and social enterprise for creating a more educated and inspired society that is more humane and sustainable. I could go on and on and on, and I think it might be good for us to just move into the interview, but thank you, Mitchell, for your ongoing service. Take it away.
Pleasure. Thank you so much, Rick Ulfik. You and I have been doing this dance together for a long time. Indeed.
That's for sure.
Ellie Lesson.
Yes.
So lovely to have you as part of our Earth Day celebration.
I am honored, Mitchell. I am honored.
I'm so glad. So are we. So Ellie, you know, you have a distinguished career. You and I have spent the last few years involved in the Pachamama Alliance activity, which just uplifts our soul and educates our mind and gets us into action. Mm-hmm. And as part of that, we have also been engaged in the wonderful work that has come forward in the form of Drawdown. In fact, Absolutely. I'd love to show this to everybody if, Rick, you're able to get this, because the title of the book is provocative. Can everyone see that?
Yes, we can see it.
Can't see it all, I'll tell you. Drawdown, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming. That's right, folks, reverse. And Ellie, you and I are completely committed to that outcome.
Absolutely.
And I wish that you would educate our audience thinking like a TV host, educate our people about what that means. What does drawdown mean and what does it consist of?
Well, thank you so much. First of all, I'd like to say, Guy, I really enjoyed your presentation. And I want you to know I got transported back, although I'm sure we're a similar age, but I got transported back to my own father, who was head of creating programs for people at the California Institute of Science and Industry way back when in Los Angeles. And I always used to have, my dad used to say to me, unless I can see it, touch it, feel it, measure it, it doesn't exist. And I would always say, there's another part that we haven't gotten yet, but it's all powerful. You know? Anyhow, I loved talking to you, Guy. I hope at some point I can chat with you longer. But drawdown. Okay.
What about your father?
No, just I thought what he was saying was so provocative. We could talk about my dad.
I'm kidding.
And I just came.
I love talking with Guy.
And I just came.
Education.
I just came on at the very last minute, so I wasn't able to get most of it. Okay, so drawdown. The definition of drawdown from Project Drawdown or Paul Hawken is that moment in the future when greenhouse gases in the atmosphere begin to decline on a year-to-year basis and get us back down to the reasonable levels of greenhouse gases before catastrophic climate change events can happen. That is the whole goal of drawdown. That is what drawdown is about. And drawdown, shall I go into a little bit of history about it?
Yes,
Richard?
please do.
Okay. So first of all, do you think that everyone knows? Should I say a little bit about Paul Hawken, or do you think people know who he is?
Well, sure. A brief picturing.
A brief picture. So Paul Hawken is, he's just a committed environmentalist. He has written 8 books on the topic. He is a entrepreneur, having created Irwan Trading Company and Smith Hawken and another a solar company whose name I am forgetting. But I think the most important thing, if you have a pen or pencil and a piece of paper, write down something that I think really tells you who he is. And it's one of the most extraordinary things. It is a commencement address he gave in 2009 in Portland, Oregon, to a graduating college class. And the name of this, if you Google it, is "You Are Brilliant and the Earth is Hiring." You are brilliant and the earth is hiring. This will be a gift to you if you haven't looked at it. And it will tell you everything that you need to know about Paul Hawken. So
I'm going to add something to that, Ellie.
Sure. Please.
Which is that since you're making recommendations of links.
Sure.
Is the talk that he gave and is well known for as well to the Bioneers Conference on his book called Blessed Unrest.
Yes, Blessed Unrest.
Reference to earlier, which lists, I think the list is so long of organizations that are doing good things on the planet, on grassroots, all the way up to high levels of industry, corporate, and heads of state.
Yes.
That we don't know of, that doesn't hit the news, that is really changing the way things are going. And if you have any question, when you start to feel down and a little depressed at the damage we have done, which is vast, and as wonderful Dr. McPherson was pointing out, the consequences of, you will start to feel revivified, because what is actually happening at ground zero, if you will, is phenomenal.
Oh, it really is. Yeah,
we're all part of it.
Right. I think he called it sort of the invisible social movement that is transforming the world or something, or the most powerful, movement.
And it's not a white male vertebrate.
He calls himself a charismatic white. The times that are changing will be very soon when it's not a charismatic white male vertebrate, like himself who will be in power.
Exactly.
That's what he's
So
advocating.
could you lay out for us some of the some of the fundamentals of this idea called Project Drawdown?
So okay, so a little bit of history, because Paul Hawken, I just want to say at a moment like this, I think all of us want to know, what should I do? God, tell me, what can I do? Because if God would tell us, I think we would all, every single person on this call, we would do it. And I think it was at a moment like this in Paul Hawken's own life that Drawdown was created. He had been, like most of us, deeply disturbed and knowing in a deep part of himself for decades that something was very wrong with our relationship with the earth, that we were destroying it, that we had a destructive, extractive economy that was a death economy, really. And so he asked his friends, and since he was in the movement, he knew a lot of them, including IPCC writers, the Intergovernmental Panel people, the scientists. He started to ask them, has anyone done a study on whether or not we can reverse our situation? Because science had done an extraordinary job of telling us all of the horrible things that were going to happen. Very accurate science. Even what Guy was talking about, accurate, truthful. But no one, it seemed, had done a study to find out if we could actually reverse it. And all the scientists said, what a good idea, but no one's ever done it. And no one did do it. And then at some point, he went to the Iceland, in Greenland, the ice sheet there, and he saw the scientists drilling down into the core and bringing up those ice samples that actually proved that we human beings had never lived on this planet on anything above 300 parts per million of greenhouse gases. And at that time, when he observed that, we were already over 400. And if you added in greenhouse gas equivalents like methane, nitrous oxide, and so on, we were well above that. He became agitated. And then Bill McKibben's book, article in 2012, The Terrifying Math of Climate, the Rolling Stone article came out. At that moment, Hawken had an epiphany. He realized that he was going to take this on.
Give us a couple of the fundamental ideas regarding solutions that are embedded in Project Drawdown.
The one thing I want to say, and why this book became a New York Times bestseller, okay, was because at the end of their multi-year research, when they pushed the button to find out whether it was doom and gloom or game over with regard to climate, the science came back that yes, we could reverse global warming. That doesn't mean we bring back species that go extinct, but yes, we could reverse it with already existing solutions. So the point is that they identified 100 solutions and listed them at the level of which they did not emit greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, or if they brought them down and kept them sequestered. Those solutions were published in this book, although pristine in science. It's made for lay people such as myself, so that regular people can get involved in the effort that we have to take right now, because now is the time that we need to move on this. They just did, so this was Drawdown 1, and they just came out last month with Drawdown 2.0 after 3 years, and the research remains the same. The consensus is that yes, we can do this by mid-century if we scale up these already existing solutions. You wanted me to mention some of them? Okay, hold on. So I'm not going to talk about the ones that are what we would expect, like wind and soil. Wind and solar. I'll mention some. Food waste reduction and plant-rich diets together curb demand. They curb deforestation and associated emissions. Refrigeration management was number one. Those HFCs escaping in the air, they are more powerful by 1,000 to 9,000 times more damaging than CO2. Restoration of temperate tropical boreal forests, which are powerful, vast carbon sinks, are an enormous drawdown solution. Indigenous peoples' land management and stewardship, telepresence, like we're doing right now, communicating with one another without having to travel, that is a drawdown solution. And for me, most fascinating as a feminist, access for all women to high quality voluntary reproductive health care and education. Because if women become educated and they become persons on their own, so to speak, instead of having an average of 5.6 children, they wind up having 2 children. They have jobs, they have resources, which they pour into those 2 children, and it becomes a virtuous cycle of not only a family getting better, but of a town getting better, a city getting better, a country getting better, a nation getting better, and I think a world getting better in the empowerment of girls and women.
That's beautiful.
Okay, here's the most important thing. This is really important. The bottom line about this is that we can solve the climate crisis, and the solutions also bring social justice and equity, jobs, health, and well-being. So if we do it right, we can shift the way we do business from exploitive and extractive to restorative and regenerative, from a death economy to a life economy, and the world, and move closer to the world that we all want. That's the work of Drawdown.
God bless you. Thank you so much. And I want to just thank you for the initiative you have taken in leading the project Drawdown in New York City. Of course, I've been so connected with you for these last few years.
Hasn't it been extraordinary?
Putting things on, you know, at Society for Ethical Culture, etc. We've done some wonderful things.
Mitchell, I just want to share. Can I just share with the crowd just really quick? You know, we
really don't have the time, Ellie. That's not the time for this. But thank you. The point remains that I want to give Ellie the credit because I know I've worked side by side with her, and extraordinary things happen, amazing things happen in her presence. And thank you.
You're welcome.
For your beautiful work.
Mwah.
It's so important what is going on here with Project Drawdown in New York City and in fact across the country, because it is truly all about solutions and solutions that we can do really in our own kitchen, in our own backyard, as well as globally on a large scale. And Ellie shared a few of those with us. So with that, I again say thank you. Our next guest is our other keynote speaker, Jonathan Granoff. And at the end of his talk, we will be bringing in the incredible music of Michael Fitzpatrick, who is a dear friend of both Jonathan's and mine. Jonathan, a few words about him, is president of the Global Security Institute, a 2014 nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize. Jonathan is also an attorney, author, and international advocate, emphasizing the legal and the ethical dimensions of human development and security with a specific focus on the threats posed by nuclear weapons. He has also been a guest on A Better World some time ago, and it's time to do that again. Michael Fitzpatrick is an internationally renowned cellist for his music called Tuning the Planet, and he has been hailed by the New York Times as possessing, quote, virtuosity and an ear for musical dialogue, and by NPR as an interpreter of the muse, Michael Fitzpatrick has performed as a soloist around the world, including at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Hollywood Bowl, the UN, the Vatican, the West Lawn next to the West Wing, and with the Jerusalem Symphony Orchestra. One of Michael's crowning achievements was the music he made and subsequent CD in a cave in Kentucky with Tibetan monks, chanting in honor of His Holiness the Dalai Lama's friendship with Thomas Merton. And the name of the CD is called Compassion. So, Jonathan Granoff, welcome to our Global Earth Day event.
Thank you.
So good to see you.
Is this a good sound? Are we clear? Is it all
It's a very good sound and you look fantastic.
good? Thank you. What can I say?
Thank you. Thank God.
I think it's because I've been very busy, but I've been at home, and I haven't had the blessing of having this much time with my beautiful wife, with whom we've traveled for the last 42 years. And we've not had this much time together since we first got married. And
like a honeymoon.
Yeah, well, not quite like that, because we're a little bit older. But the virus has caused us and so many people to contend with our mortality. And when you contend with your mortality, the fact that your life ends gives meaning to the decisions that you make. Because if we went on infinitely in the form of the world, then our decisions would have no meaning. So it brings to the forefront the two most important words that we have, yes and no. And so it brings to the forefront what is really meaningful, which is, of course, the web of relationships we have with people and the relationship we have to the gift of time that we have. And on this day, Earth Day, it's a day to reflect on our relationship to the whole of the earth and the whole of the human family. And this virus, this very small particle, not observable by the eyes, is not, can't be controlled, dominated, and destroyed by the huge military expenditures of the states of the world. The United States has just committed $1.7 trillion to modernize the nuclear arsenal. I want people to grasp how much that is. For example, they've dramatically increased the expenditures for the intercontinental ballistic missiles, which will be tested next month, despite all of these issues. They don't have enough money for ventilators and to take care of people. It's a theft from people who are hungry. It's a theft from people who don't have adequate health care. It's a theft from future generations. But it represents a kind of thinking that pursues domination and control rather than harmony. And what this virus tells us is that our human security, our well-being and health, a disease, a virus anywhere, affects everybody, everywhere. And before I sort of get into a more formal presentation, that reminds me of a great 13th century Sufi poet, Sadi, who phrased exactly the attitude we have to have today in a very short poem. And he sang, "The human family is one body with many parts, creations arising from one unseen essence. Any harm to any part summons an awakening to that disease and a healing response from all the parts. O you who fail to feel the pain of others, how can you call yourself human?" So for us to really honor Earth Day, we have to come into deeper contact with our own humanity and decide what are the things that we really need individually and collectively to be fully human. What are the policies that we need? What are the qualities that we need? And start like deep, what are our intentions? What are our framework of thinking? And what is our worldview? What are the principles? what are the policies, and what are the laws. And right now, anybody with a conscience can see that there's a disconnect between the laws that govern our major institutions, corporations, and states, and the values that we know need to be applied. The values that say, well, at any place where policies are going to be made, there's 3 chairs that need to be at the table that are not there. One chair is for future generations. So corporations don't look at how they're going to affect future generations. They only look at their shareholders. And our electoral process is governed largely by the pornography of the trivial, and hardly the things that really matter to people who think, which is the health of the oceans, the health of the rainforest, the health of the water table, the health of the people. The other is the people who are most affected by policies, who are the vast majority of people who don't have any say. You know, we hear so much about Wall Street and Main Street, but what about the several billion people with no street? They're the ones who really suffer from climate change right now, far more even than the pandemic, the systemic crushing poverty, where no matter how hard you work, your condition doesn't change. And this is, we now for the first time in human history have the ability to eliminate this condition. A mere pittance of the military budgets of the world, 10, 15% would eliminate world poverty, and we could do everything with the climate. We could have regenerative agriculture. We could have fast trains. We could get off of fossil fuel. I mean, the technical solutions are there. The problem is we don't have the political will, and the laws privilege conduct that's incommensurate with the nature of reality, the nature of the natural world. The natural world is not infinite, but we pursue economic development as if it were infinite. We have economic evaluations in our corporations that don't include the effect on the environment for future generations. It simply includes it. So the passes on the environmental harm outside of the bookkeeping. It's called an externality. And the third party that I think needs to be at the table is not human life. Not human life. We make policies as if we're somehow separated from the web of life, as if human beings are not part of the whole of the generosity of creation, and that we have a right to treat other lives as mere property, resources, things we can eat and or discard. And so, like, I think of it this, so we're destroying species because of this disconnect between our values and our laws and policies. We're destroying species at minimally 1,000 times the evolutionary base rate. And many scientists say it's up to 10,000 times. So I think of it this way. If somebody does the despicable and terrible thing of burning a Quran or a Bhagavad Gita or a Bible, it's a terribly disrespectful, and it's just a really insensitive, wrongful thing. It's not illegal at least in many countries, in progressive countries, but it's wrong. But because we have the printing press, you can reprint a Bible, you can reprint a Quran, you can reprint a Bhagavad Gita. But when we destroy another species, a wondrous creation beyond the capacity of human beings to make, when we destroy another species or an ecosystem, it's truly, the way I look at it, is it's as if we're ripping a page out of a holy scripture. Because the natural world is the direct creation of the Creator. It's the direct book that tells us where we are and how we need to behave. It tells us to walk humbly. It tells us to be attuned. It tells us to be at one. It tells us to have hearts without borders. It tells us to treat one another with kindness. It tells us that our time is limited. If ants, for example, were to be extinguished, the human venture would only have about 2 months to go and we would end. But if we end, the ants wouldn't notice it at all. So we need to be ant people. We need to have some sense of unity, some sense of humility. You know, when you see an ant die, all the other ants come and pick it up. You know, they don't complain. They just do their duty to one another. That's the attitude that I think we need to have. So thank you for letting me share a few thoughts, but I know you wanted to ask a question or something, and I had some other things. So I just got on this. I just wanted to just download a little bit of perspective of where we are at this moment. And I think the virus tells us that all of our efforts to dominate in order to gain security, it's the wrong bus. The right bus is to care for one another. It's human security. So we are pursuing security as if we can make the states that we create secure without making people secure. All right? So we spend all this money to make states secure, but not to make people secure. If we started to come back to our common humanity and focused on making people secure, human security, we would then be secure. Not only would we be secure physically, but even more importantly, much more importantly, we'd be secure emotionally and spiritually, and our laws would be in accord with the way we should behave, which is to treat one another as we want to be treated. And nations would treat other nations as they want to be treated. But as long as we pursue a domination attitude toward one another and a domination attitude toward other nations and other species, we're on the wrong bus. It's the wrong bus. It's not like you can, what I mean by that is, if you perfect the methodology, the consumer engine, and make it more efficient, we end up burning up the planet faster. We don't have a method of protecting the phytoplankton, 50 to 70% of our oxygen.
Jonathan, if I may ask or bring up, of course, you're talking about the dominator model, and if it's brilliantly successful, we'll all be dead. Nowhere to spend the money.
And nuclear weapons, the more you perfect the weapon, the less security you obtain.
Isn't that ironic, of course, right? But you made a very important point about the non-human realm. And when you talk about global security or the security of states or the security of humans, let's say it comes from above and it comes from below. You're talking about above nuclear arms, disarmament, peace among nations. But if we continue to destroy the ecosystem, the world of ants and the world of bees, the little ones, then we are being eroded from below. So our taking care of the entire ecosystem, not just us, which is a point you were making before, is of critical importance to our purview, to our understanding, that we really are all in this together. And that means you and me and all of us here, as well as the ants and the bees and all of the creatures and critters that our wonderful indigenous people are always reminding us of to have respect for.
Well, Rick started We the World, and we the world there's no them, but that has to now include other species. But we can't fix that. We have to live in harmony with it and leave it alone. You see, almost all of these pandemics come from a wrongful relationship with other species. And that's, you know, that's the, it's not having a sense of coming into harmony with the very deep message within our own hearts. And the reason for that is the worldview that we're taught does not have room for the sacred. It reduces everything to an objective quantity. Now, I do think that quantitative analysis can help us bring security in areas where that's appropriate. So science is a far better approach to protecting the environment than myth. The myth of the secure state, the myth of strategic stability, the myth of military dominance didn't do much in Vietnam or Afghanistan. It's an illusion, but we can measure the health of the oceans, the topsoil, the climate, etc. But as human beings, there's a part of us that's not bound by the limitations of the earth. The earth is a manifestation of the Creator. The earth is an expression of the magnificent power that brings each of us into being. We are human beings. We're brought into this journey from a source mysterious and wonderful beyond our imagining. We are gifted with this gift of breath and life by that source. When we forget that, we forget our humanity. When we remember that, and if our hearts are hearts without borders, if we come into this moment with gratitude and with grace, then we're gifted with wisdom. And wisdom is that capacity to understand source, to see the values of love and compassion, and to bring it into skillful action, and more importantly, to be connected to that source. And that source, as all of the great wise have said, is one. So I think maybe we could bring some music in.
Indeed.
In which all of us could remember that part of us that hears not with the ear, but hears with the ear of the heart, because it is with the open heart that our own humanity is gifted to us. So Michael, who plays music from that place, will help us go back to that place, and then we'll end with just a little bit of invocation to continue our work on Earth Day to honor that place.
Beautiful. A dear friend of yours and mine, Michael.
Yes, Michael Fitzpatrick, and I will play this a portion of his performance for us now.
That took place, by the way, at the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. And it's the invocation of world peace.
If you want more of Michael, you can go to the Global Security Institute's website and see Michael and myself doing things at the UN. One under the Moral Compass, which we did with the Holy See, and the other on International Day of Nonviolence, October 2nd, 2015, where I read Gandhi, quotes from Gandhi, and gave some prayers, and he extemporaneously brought a room full of diplomats to a state of remembrance of our common humanity. And may all of us listening today come to realize clearly the gift of the earth, the form of our bodies. We're not separate from that form and that quality of nurturing of Mother Earth. We're not separate from the energy of the sun and all of the stars and the energy of the atoms that gives us life itself. We're not separate as we breathe the air and share the pure air. And we're not separate from the flow of water. It flows through our blood and our veins, and 70% of us is that water. But what holds it together in the time of our lives is the luminosity of our souls. And every wise man and woman from time immemorial has reminded us that to find the luminosity of the soul, which brings us into communion with the great source, it is to cultivate a heart of loving kindness and compassion. So may we see one another with loving kindness and compassion, see ourselves with that, and go and find that source of loving kindness and compassion. And then we will realize we don't have to make it one. It is one, and it is sacred, and it is holy. And every life that we meet is an expression and embodiment of that. And we won't be here for long. So let's do that. Let's do that today and every day. We each need each other to do that. That's why we're put here together. And all praises and all glory and all wonder is to that mystery known by so many names, but beyond all name, form, and thought, the source of life itself, which, as Jesus said, is love, as Muhammad said, is compassion, and as the best I can say is, oh my God, it's wonderful.
Jonathan Granoff, bless your soul, my friend. Thank you so much for that heartfelt sharing from beginning to end.
Thank you for bringing us together. I mean, that's the big yes. Rick said yes when something called him to bring us together, and you said yes, and all the presenters here. But that's what our sister asked, what does God want of us? God wants us to say yes to that part of us that is God. And then the hand within the hand. Look, there's something in our hand that touches and you can't see it. There's something in our eyes that sees and you can't see it. There's something in us that knows and you can't know it as an object. There's a mystery living in us, through us. And that's where we find it, within ourselves. And that's where unity is found. Indeed. If we go into that, we find the source of love and kindness and wisdom, and each person plays in the orchestra the instrument that they've been given. No one has a beautiful face like you, my brother, and no one has a face like mine.
That's right.
Each of us is a unique miracle. But for any wave to think that it's separate from the ocean, that would be an illusion. But the wave only knows that it is the ocean when it bows down.
Exactly. And on that note, we have to wave on. So God bless. Thank you. You're a wonderful particle in that wave, I tell you. Thank you again, Jonathan Granoff. So we are going to be moving on in this wonderful celebration of life, of the divine, of even the troubles we've seen. We are enlivening ourselves by the duty, if you will, the dharma, the sense of purpose being revivified through recognizing the harm we've done, the destruction we've completed by now. At this point in 2020, it truly makes everyone weep. And I think that's very healthy. We need to weep. We need to be brought down to our knees, as so many of our speakers have been saying in their own ways. And from that, from the ashes, if you will, comes the phoenix. So on that note, I want to invite Invita, who is our next speaker and is actually going to lead us through a beautiful meditation as the next step in today's global event. And I just want to have a quick moment of shout out to all of the people across the planet that we know are tuning in today, which is fantastic. And a particular group of a friend of mine, a Sikh gentleman and scholar in Malaysia, who runs a foster home full of 90 to 100 children, who is looking to come on and watch us all tonight, and morning there, tonight with us, and be part of today's event. There are others from everywhere, and I just welcome everyone from whatever corner of the world you happen to inhabit. We're all here together. So on that note, Invita, I hope you're nearby. Let me just read a little bit to share with our audience a bit about you.
Thank you.
Invita Rose is an author, a soul plan activator, and a transpersonal healer. Through her transpersonal healing and spiritual teachings, she empowers her clients by showing them how to clear karmic blocks, stagnant energies in this life and perhaps in the past, as well as connecting them to their own soul spark, which opens up their own divine channel. Invita, all yours.
Hello, thank you so much. And it is really a blessing to be here.
I will say, though, I wish we could see you.
I'm not sure why. Sometimes you can see me, but not always. So there's two options.
That sounds very mystical.
But I will do a screen share, so I hope that comes on well.
Okay.
So I just would like to say thank you so much for everyone. And it is really important that we're all united today because, as most of us know, we are one and we are connected through the channel of our inner heart, meaning that through our higher consciousness, the source in which we are all from, we are all connected. And we go into this place through our awakening, remembering the truth of who we are. But it is our purpose in life to all unite and connect in the physical form, because we have all chosen to be here now in this physical form. And I know that it takes courage to face all of our fears and to step into the unknown. The thing is that nothing is unknown and all exists within. Everything that you need and want and ask yourself, and the abilities to shift what is now going on in your life, is within you and waiting to be connected. Through this time, this state of chaos, all structure and new birth is formed. So when going forward in your life, think not only of yourself, but think what is the point of the purpose in the world, and connecting to your divine self and expanding higher to all that is. And the most powerful gift is wisdom of thyself. So right now, I'm going to go into a meditation, and this is going to activate the healing abilities on the different levels of our planet Earth. I hope you can see the peace lights, and I'm honored that we could use them in this meditation. I ask you just to take a moment and sit comfortably, breathing in, and as you breathe, connecting to life's force energy. Now expanding the energy throughout you and feeling your feet upon the ground, upon Mother Earth. And now I'd like you to draw a golden line that connects you to the center of the heart in the earth. Now extending that back into your heart, drawing another golden line up to the sun, and in the center of the sun is also a heart. This meditation will be for a cleansing, to clear all that is within us on our mental body, emotional, physical, spiritual, for the earth, the minerals, the animals, and the plants that have all been affected by actions, thoughts, words, and feelings which have caused a separation. By cleansing ourselves, we will allow the space for unity. Now drawing a golden light and a white light that surrounds you, and all of those that are connected right now, I would like you to imagine a jasmine flower, and we will begin first with yourself. This jasmine flower will go into your belly button, which is the connection that you came here through your own mother. And I would like you to imagine the jasmine flower now moving in through your body, through your heart, gathering and collecting all debris that are in your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual body. Imagining the jasmine flower coming out and outside in front of you through your third eye. And as you see, it may be a little bit dirty or dusty, and I would like you to just shake the jasmine flower so it returns to its pure whiteness. And again, I'd like you to place the jasmine flower again within you, going through your belly button, cleansing inside of you, going into your heart, reaching the 5th heart chamber, clearing out all that is, which is causing the separation, so you may see the unity in all. Coming out again from your third eye. Again, you may observe that it could be a little bit dirty or dusty, and please shake it as well until it returns to its purest white form. And then inhaling, taking it in one more time, as it moves through your body, now cleansing your mind of all thoughts and beliefs that were created, causing separation and illusion, so that you may awaken to unity. And again, extending out, popping out through your third eye. You may do this several times until the jasmine flower comes out in the purest white light form. Now, as you've done that again, and it is pure, I want you now to take the flower and place it into your heart, but into the 5th heart chamber, which is the soul's connection, the connection which we all have in the collective consciousness. uniting us as one. Now we will take an opportunity to do this exercise again, but in a different form. We will not use our own bodies, but we will ask the jasmine flower to serve its purpose in cleansing Mother Earth from all feelings, thoughts, actions, and words that we have taken against. Knowing that before, without judgment, we were separated and not connected. But now, as we've connected and purified ourselves, we wish to serve our Mother Earth and cleansing of all that has been as well. Taking the jasmine flower and placing it into the ground, you watch as it's absorbed through the earth, going deeper and deeper into the center of the earth's core. And there you will also find a heart. And the jasmine flower enters the heart, magnetically taking and cleansing all that has been and all that will be. And then now returning towards the surface, upon its journey, also collecting all aspects. And as it comes out of the earth, almost as a seed begins to grow and blossoms, you see it. And should it have any dirt or dust, shake that as well and cleanse it. And when it is returned to its purest form, you may do this again if you have found that it was very dirty, or you can place it again into the earth, watching it as it ascends into the center of the earth, into its heart center. And there it will take place. Breathing in deeply, taking a moment to thank the earth for all that it has done, and understanding going forward that we serve her, and it is not the other way around, that we are awoken in understanding the unity and connection. Now we shall place the jasmine flower into the energies of all of the minerals that have also been affected by our actions, thoughts, words, and feelings, placing this into the center of the energy. And through all aspects, cleansing all that has been and all that will be. And as a jasmine flower extends out again in front of us, you may shake it off again and cleanse it if need be, returning and restoring to its purest white light form. And now thanking all of the minerals for everything that it has given us, understanding as well our purpose is to serve and not the other way around. And taking this jasmine flower in the purest form and putting it into the center of the energy where all of the minerals are connected. And again, we take the next jasmine flower and we place it into all of the animals, insects, and living beings in this earth. Also, to purify any actions, thoughts, words that we have used against all living beings that are in this world. As it goes through the embodiments of all parts of those that are living and those that are past, extending through their heart, also within their fifth heart chamber, extending out, and again cleansing the jasmine flower, should it be needed, returning it to its purest white light form. We now have an infinite amount of jasmine flowers, and these are all to be placed into the hearts of all of the animals, insects, and beings of this entire planet, thanking them for all that has been, and knowing that we serve them too, and the purpose is not for them to serve us. And now, for the last one, taking the jasmine flower and placing it in all of the flora, plant vegetation, and again, within this jasmine flower, collecting all aspects of anything we have acted illy towards, thought or felt or spoken of, cleansing all that has been and extending out. And as it is in front of us, we cleanse the jasmine flower again, should this be needed. And again, we create a web of jasmine flowers that extends to all Laura, knowing that we too serve, and the purpose is not to serve us. As we breathe in deeply, almost scenting the jasmine flower, thanking ourselves that we may be of service to that is which around us. And the jasmine flower that is connected into your heart center is now the link to all that exists within this earth in which we are. Feel the energy as it flows through you. At this time, light and dark are in perfect balance, and for a brief moment, balance comes growth, expansion, and inspiration. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Anvita. Very beautiful. I feel like I'm a jasmine flower as we speak. So thank you.
So then you're in your purest form. But if anyone has feedback and noticed that there was any debris on the jasmine flower at what stage, I would be very interested in knowing. You can find me on Facebook. My page is Invita Rose, or my website, invitarose.com. So I would appreciate any feedback because it was a guided meditation. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Anvita.
And for Peace Lights. Yes.
Are you? Yes, definitely. Are you in Switzerland?
Yes, I am. I'm in Switzerland and it's about 2:19 in the morning.
Well, thank you for staying up so late to fill our garden with jasmine.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And I appreciate everyone who has been part of this meditation in uniting as one in this purpose.
Beautiful. Thank you again. Merci.
Thank you.
And buongiorno.
Bye.
You know, it's funny. Invita Rose, if any of you know that wonderful song, maybe Rick does, by Edith Piaf, La Vie en Rose, right? It's like you're named after her. So you're another beautiful flower in the garden. So we're moving right along. We still have some very fun things to happen. We have Jackson Madnick coming up relatively soon. We have Evan Pritchard. We have David Young. And right now we have Angelica Cubides, who is a world beloved healer and leader and an ordained minister, spiritual teacher, poet, and composer. Born in Ecuador, Angelica has devoted a lifetime of service to people and communities large and small, locally and globally. With her deep wisdom and compassion, Angelica is a true inspiration to countless awakened and awakening human beings who treasure her presence for embodying divine healing, love, and light, offered selflessly to any and all requiring healing. And that's everyone. And to all life on planet Earth. So, Angelica, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much for this glorious opportunity to celebrate our beloved Mother Earth. I am so blessed from the wisdom of our brother Andrew, who had suggested that Evan will assist me on my prayer, and I had humbly requested of Evan to accompany me in one of my songs, which I treasure very much. It is an honor to my roots, in honoring the roots of all the indigenous people around the world. And for this privilege, I had such a blessing with Evan Pritchard to accompany me, and the song was born as a song, but I feel is a prayer, is a poem, and it is an invocation. It's truly a blessing to bring to the earth. Ecuador being so privileged to be and to have such a wonderful people. I feel all the indigenous people in the world are really the anchorage for the earth, the anchorage for the energy, the anchorage for the spirituality, the anchorage for the purity of hearts and consciousness, and that connectivity with the earth is just a miracle. I encourage everyone to please pay attention. All over the world, the indigenous people are, a lot of time has been a huge struggle to sustain the energy against all odds, to really bring the message that will benefit humanity, will protect all life in the planet. It is really from the heart. They know the cosmos. They understand the language of the earth. They understand the language of the oceans, the rivers, of every creature on the earth. Let us give a thank you from the heart for all they have endured and how brave and courageous they are to really sustain that stability, that conviction, that a lot of times takes more than one human being to sustain the challenges. But I do believe through their example, we can say now, every challenge, the greater the challenge, the greater the opportunity. I honor the ancestors of Ecuador. I am grateful to all my ancestors, especially to my parents, for giving me for being the vessel for me to come this time around to planet Earth. And I intend to make the best of every second in my life to give all that I have inside of me and all that it is funneling through me for the blessings of all life on earth. I am honoring also the spirit of the condor and the spirit of the eagle. What a blessing it is for me to have Evan Pritchard accompany me on the Son of the Andes, honoring the eagle and honoring the condor. For you, Son of the Andes, and it will be followed by a song, is a recording, and I would like you to, before I present the song, look at these faces. If you can zoom in to the pictures. It is these voices, these precious faces, inviting to the world to be a part of the solution. Let us not be focused on the problem, let us focus on the solution. And bring into the world from my precious country, Ecuador. Son of the Andes, he who honors his ancestry dignifies the present and enriches the future. Hijo de los Andes, son of the Andes, hija de los Andes, daughter of the Andes. The eagle is about to appear. I sing to the moon, to the sun and the stars, uniting our voices with those of the past, with the race of sages of the yesteryears, whose lives were a homage for liberty's sake. I search in the vastness the condor in flight, its grace so majestic that made us all dream. The manorial mountain high above the hills was the sacred ground of happiness full. Up there in the heights, the old Inca chief, the Supreme Father, had a meeting place. O mysterious condor, leave your lurking place. Return with your splendor to the mountain peak, the charm that held captive men of yesteryears. Shroud not in the clouds of the immensity. Deny not the children your majestic flight. Let them see the flapping of your graceful wings. Let them see the flapping of your graceful wings. Condor in the heights, you are potentate. Take with you our sons, our clamor for peace. To the Lord that once expired on the cross. We walk supplicating as we face the sun. May this noble race preserve and defend the message of wisdom, the great legacy, enduring endowment of the Inca chief, the message of wisdom, the great legacy. Hijo de los Andes soy, son of the Andes I am. Hija de los Andes soy, daughter of the Andes, I am. And I am grateful. I am grateful. I am so very grateful.
Thank you, Angelica. Gracias por todo.
Gracias por la oportunidad. Now we are going to put the song and the recording.
We have just another minute, Angelica. So
in that case, we are going to leave it. I'm grateful. I'm grateful
Perfecto.
for bringing the candor, for bringing. And one thing I was saying that minute, my vision was the flight of the eagle, the dove, and the candor, encircling the earth. The most magnificent, magnificent sight. And on that, I have all the hope. I have my faith and the integrity and the wisdom of humanity that we will turn this thing around. We are going to turn the world around by the power of love. We are children of love, and we are going to maximize that power to be and to become that which we are meant to be. Thank you.
muy bonita. Gracias por todo. Perfecto. Muy bonita. We hear today from scholars, from scientists, and from spiritual healers. And that's what makes our humanity so like a gorgeous garden. And that's really what we are. And here represented today is a beautiful symbol of that diversity. So, por eso, gracias otra vez. So, our next speaker is Lisa Roma, who is a songwriter, who is a caregiver, and let me see, she has a lot of credentials of different sorts. So I want to make sure to mention the ones that she wanted me to, if I could find them easily. And that's not going so easily. But I'm going to share with you a little bit of the original write-up that she gave us.
Oh no.
Because, well, very quickly,
Okay.
Lisa is a multi-creative woman who is now protesting too much, visionary, published writer, poet, graphic artist, photographer. She's a vocalist, a song poet, and composer. She's got many credentials, as I said, to her name, and not least of which is that she has been caring for an elderly person in her family, and that has taken a lot of her time, attention, and heart, and has actually enriched her as a human being and her music. So, Lisa, bienvenidos, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
I want to only say one thing, because I have the unenviable position of having this and the bell, and I just have to apply sometimes. Please help me from needing it much.
Okay, how much time do I have?
Good question. Give me a moment here.
How many minutes do I have?
Absolutely. We're running seriously out of time, somewhere between 5 and 7 minutes.
That's fine. Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to everybody, because we're in such a dire situation. And I will sing a little bit of a song that I wrote inspired by Great Spirit. And before I do that, I will quickly read a poem by Virginia Bagliori, who is a spiritual mentor of mine for many years, and she passed away a long time ago. And this is called Daughter of Legends. Woman, daughter of legends, take back your earth. Maker of sounds, treasure your song and raise your eyes. Don't look back. Cry for the birth of sons. Rise above earth's shadows. Dissolve the seal of sorrow. This forbidden fruit caused man to borrow from your hidden treasures. Take back your earth, kiss the sun, and dip into your splendor. Create out of dust sweet fruit whose golden seeds will blossom into legends. And this is from Song of Illumination, which I wrote a couple of years ago, inspired when I was with Leisha, taking care of her. I am an instrument of your peace. I am divine energy. So let us shine light on this world. Let it be pure light. And let us honor each other with creativity. Mother Earth is speaking out. Does she really have to scream and shout? Groove to a new reality, one that sets you free. Spirit of love, a new spacious civilization, our new nation, nation of love, celebration of love, oceans of love, generations of love, mission of love. That's all I'm going to sing right now. I want to bless everybody and say that we have to pass on this message and take it seriously. And I'm giving you back your podium, Mitchell.
Lisa, please take a couple more minutes. I don't want to be cutting you off that much. I
don't know what else.
A lot to share.
Okay.
Give us some at least parting words for our people and our planet.
Okay.
And our pets.
Okay, basically, and I have 2 cats here, and they've been very considerate and have not jumped on my lap or on my keyboard, which is very interesting.
Well, they're the ones who asked me to say that.
Yeah. What?
They're the ones who asked me to remember them.
Well, see, basically, the love that we can share with each other and the kindness that we could share with each other. I've been taking care of a woman for 7 years who recently passed, and I just took care of a different woman for 3 days. And, you know, we have to really honor each other, whatever age we are, because everyone is sacred and we all matter. And all of our children, all of our furry friends, all of the creatures of the earth, all of life is important. And we need to stop thinking selfishly and materialistically. And one of the most important things that I have always loved and benefited from is the connection to nature. Living across the street from a state park and a river with trees and open sky, when it was recently closed because of the COVID virus, and then I was really distraught because that's what sustains me. Nature sustains me. And I was so overjoyed when the park was recently reopened and I went across the street to commune with nature, to give thanks to Mother Earth, which is something I do constantly, to give thanks to Great Spirit and all of life and the great beloved and my ancestors and beloved that have passed on. My husband passed on, my mother. So it's about giving thanks and gratitude. In order to make a shift, we have to constantly be aware of gratitude within our hearts and love within our hearts, and that everyone matters, everyone is sacred, all humans, all non-humans, and especially Mother Earth and all of the planets. There's a consciousness that connects everything. And the astronauts, I think it was John Glenn, who in the 60s when we landed on the moon, and he said, when you look down at the Earth from space, he says all he could feel is love, an amazing sense of love connecting everything. No boundaries, no borders, just an incredible sensibility of love. And we need to tune into that in order to raise the consciousness of the planet. And we need to save ourselves and each other with love and gratitude. That's the only thing I could think of right now that matters.
Oh,
Thank you.
it's an important message, Lisa, and
Thank
we
you.
all appreciate it, and we feel your love.
Thank you. I love you all.
Thank you for that gift to us all.
Thank you.
Sure.
Blessings to all.
You know, I just want to say, in light of what Lisa was just sharing with us and what Jonathan and everyone and Vita and others, is that love is a frequency. It's understood as that. It's said to be the glue of the universe. So we're not kidding when we say love. It's not just some kind of common or trivial notion. I mean, you know how the Eskimo language knows about 100 different words for snow. Well, I think that we need to reinvent a couple of more words for love. There are so many types, of course: unconditional love, romantic love, lustful love, agape. There are some words we have to reach back sometimes to the ancient Greek to adorn and re-enliven our own. Love is a great word. We all know what it means, but I think it's getting time to develop higher levels of appreciation and words themselves that distinguish that vast universe we call love. And your music, your words help to do that, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Namaste. So, continuing on with our themes of the night, the next guest is a dear friend of mine. If I can find the write-up on him, even though I've said it many times, because I'm quite familiar with Jackson Madnick, who is our next speaker. Somehow my list keeps going away. I don't know why that happens, but that's beside the point. I'm going to ad-lib it a bit because I do know Jackson well, and he's a very special soul. He was a TV anchor, as a matter of fact, for some time in Boston on a local TV station up there, a news station. He then went on to produce major global events on the planet, usually charitable events, usually around protecting and conserving water and the environment. He's won all sorts of very distinguished awards. It's almost funny how he has beaten out some luminaries of our world with the quality of the productions he's made. Well, after completing that, he went into another space altogether, the environmental space whole hog, after studying what was polluting the waterways up in the general Boston area where he lives. And he was appalled to make some findings about what was polluting our waterways. And a lot of that had to do with the pesticide runoff from lawns. Whoever thought that that would be such a problem? Well, he found out, scientifically measured, and that caused a new direction and trajectory in his life. So with that said, Jackson Madnick, president of Pearl's Premium Ultra Low Maintenance Lawn Seed, welcome to our Global Earth Day event. So glad to have you. Please share with us what you want us to know.
Hi, Mitchell, and thank you for this wonderful program. I'm here with my dog, Zoe, and we have a message, a positive message. We've heard about problems. We all know what the problems are, but there are some very simple solutions. People ask, what can I do? Well, I want to address one simple thing that you can do to make this a better planet and to be healthier. And it came from my mother, Pearl, who during the 50s and the 60s, she was an environmentalist before we had heard of Rachel Carson. And she used to take us to the sea and talk to us, my brothers and I, about the environment and water, and that we need to protect it for us and the children of future generations. And as I grew older, I did the news for a while and doing stories to start off with. And now for something positive, I produced major events on lakes and rivers and in parks that had to do with the environment and energy and so on. And then I got very interested in grass. And I liked the look of grass, but I hated everything about it. All the water, the chemicals, the runoff, the lawnmowers, the sound of lawnmowers. And I was wondering if there could be something, a better grass. And this is probably the most important thing I've ever done. It's something very simple, but very important. And lawns are affecting our water. It's using up 50% of all of our clean drinking water in North America goes to lawns. I mean, toilets use 6 gallons of water a day. The average small lawn uses 1,250 gallons of water a day. And then, as Mitchell has said, the runoff and the chemicals are increasing the risk of learning and behavioral disorders for children, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's disease, asthma, sexual dysfunction, cancer, and leukemia. That's all. And that's according to the Harvard School of Public Health and others. So I wanted to see if there was such a thing as a better grass. I did some research and it didn't exist. So I sought out 4 of the smartest PhDs on planet Earth in turf science and asked them, what would you recommend that needs less water, no chemicals, that is more bug, plant, and human friendly? And they came up with suggestions. And from that, I narrowed it down to 7 seeds, and we grew close to 10,000 trials. And at about 7,500 trials and about 5.5 years of experimenting, we came up with one batch, one little pot that was growing much slower above the soil and putting all of its energy into the roots. And typical grass, I don't know if you can see this, but typical grass has very shallow roots over here, has very shallow roots and grows very fast above the soil. But these 7 seeds in these exact proportions slow down the growth of the grass above the soil and put all of its energy into roots. So rather than growing 3 or 6 inch roots, it grows 4-foot roots. And the importance of that is the 4-foot roots need 75% less water. It also stays evergreen year round. It never goes brown in the heat of summer and the cold of winter. And it also sequesters carbon. It pulls carbon out of the air at 8 times the rate of shallow root grass, and to help lessen climate change. And there's a lot of grass. There's 45,000 square miles in our country of irrigated grass, 32 million acres. And if 1/3 of that was converted over to this deep root, slow growing grass, it would be the equivalent of taking off all the cars and trucks off the road in the United States. And the grass is beautiful. It's a dark green like this. And because of the deep roots, it outcompetes weeds. And again, it's rather than just shallow, 3 to 6 inch roots, it grows 4-foot roots. And if you mow it, it stands up and looks like a manicured lawn like this. It also doesn't grow sideways. It just grows deeply. So it grows only where you put the seeds. So you can put the seeds right beside a flower bed or a vegetable garden. It's not going to grow into the flowers of the vegetables. It only grows where you put it. And if you mow it only once a month. And if you don't mow it, it flops over. After it passes 6 inches high, It can't support its own weight. It's very barefoot soft, has less fiber, flops over to become a 3-inch high meadow that looks like this. So you mow it once a month, or you never ever mow it. And the other interesting thing, because it's a fine blade grass and it has very dense, it has more surface area above the soil and more roots in the ground. It produces 8 times the amount of oxygen of shallow root grass, 8 times the amount of oxygen. And that helps lessen, makes you generally healthier, happier to be in an oxygen-rich environment. And it lessens asthma, lung issues, and even can help lessen the risk of virus. And you want to stay away from chemicals. And you don't need chemicals. Your lawn can be totally organic, and you can use organic fertilizer or organic compost, and have a lawn. And you don't tear up the existing lawn. All you do is you cut it short, rake away the clippings, spread the seed, and it's called Pearls Premium for short, or Pearls Premium Ultra Low Maintenance Lawn Seed. And you mow it only once a month or never. It needs 75% less water after you put it down. It needs no chemicals. It's safer for you and animals, and also our bee population. What's killing off the bees of the world is chemical fertilizer. And it's very important to have bees or pollinators because most of the food that we consume needs pollinators and bees and butterflies. And this grass never, ever needs chemicals to stay green and year round. And by producing 24 times the oxygen, it can make you feel happier and healthier and lessen the risk of virus. And then along with our grass is, a couple of, just with your existing grass is, there are some best management concepts that a lot of people don't know. And if you cut your grass short, it produces very little oxygen, and it's not good for the environment, and it grows twice as fast. But if you cut taller at the magic height of 3.5 inches, it grows very slow. And also, you leave the clippings. You don't take away the clippings because it provides half the nutrients back to the grass it needs. You sharpen your blade. It takes you 2 minutes with a cheap file at the angle of the bevel once every 10 hours of mowing. It only takes 2 minutes, and it'll cut your mowing time by a third, and the grass will look healthier and happier. And last is use deep root native seeds, which our grass is basically North American deep root native seeds, but grows in all 50 states, all over Canada. We have lawns from northern Alaska to the Mojave Desert. And there's a fellow in northern Alaska who makes sculptures like chia pet sheep that grows green grass. But anyways,
I'd like to ask you something, if I may, here.
Yeah.
One of the extraordinary things, of course, I know this very well because I collaborate with Jackson on this incredible environmental project, and he has been a real mentor to me in this, and I've learned a lot about the environmental benefits of having this grass. And I never really thought about grass much at all. I just used to mow it all the time until I met Jackson. And well, since I've lived in New York, I don't have much of a lawn anymore. But a point that is very much to the benefit of the environment at large, the built environment, as in urban living, and many of the people who are part of today are living in urban environments, is the LEED certification credits that one gains. So could you explain what LEED certification is, and a little bit about, in our last few minutes, how this lawn seed has qualified for helping people gain that very valuable credit and certification?
Sure, Mitchell. LEED it's spelled out capital L, capital E, capital ED, and it is for buildings and structures what Energy Star is for appliances. It's for highly efficient things that help the environment. And under LEED, which is under the U.S. Green Building Council, they say get rid of your lawn, lessen your lawn, put in ground cover. With the one exception, our grass gets up to 6 LEED credits for using less water, improving air quality, being site suitable, etc. There's 6 different categories, and you can use it around the house to make the whole house environment healthier and more green and more sustainable, or you can put it on the roof of the house as a green roof with just 3 inches, 2.5 or 3 inches of soil on the roof. And the roots go down that 2 or 3 inches, and then they go sideways 4 feet to make a mat that's a 1/2 inch to 1 inch thick of roots that's 90% water. That acts as like a little water tank under the little bit of soil. And you use it on roofs. And our grass is so efficient in terms of producing oxygen and sequestering carbon. It's the equivalent of planting a mature 70 or 80-foot tree in your yard. And again, you don't tear up the grass. You just plant the grass right over the existing grass to outcompete everything. And this is not just grass. It's an opportunity to save time, money, and water, lessen climate change, and something simple you can do. Just throw the seeds over the existing lawn and make the lawn more sustainable. And
let's bring up one other thing, Jackson, if you would, because we're running out of time. And I think these 2 points are very interesting that you've educated me about. One is it acting as a mudslide barricade. And number 2, because of the depth of the roots. And number 2, same with a fire barricade, i.e. the wildfires in California and elsewhere, Australia, etc. Could you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, with 4 feet roots, which I can't show you in this picture, it holds everything in place. It stops erosion, holds everything in place, and holds so much water that the grass doesn't go brown in a dry season, and it acts as a fire break. There's actually people in a place in this country called Lightning Alley that every summer they have thousands and thousands of lightning strikes. They require lightning rods on the roof and no trees near your home. And you have to irrigate the grass as a fire break around the home, keep it moist. There are many people with our grass because of the 4-foot roots. You water it to get established and you seldom or never water it again, and it acts as a fire break. So it's something that's very simple. And we're also a educational nonprofit that the majority of our profit goes to different causes having to do with children, animals, and the environment. And we give tons of grass to Habitat for Humanity for wounded warriors and other worthy people. So when you get our grass, it saves you time, money, water, lessens carbon and climate change, and you're helping worthy causes and Habitat for Humanity.
Beautiful.
And
that's great, Jackson. Very much appreciate your contribution.
And people always ask, where can you get the grass? You can get it from any of the Whole Foods supermarkets in New England, or you can buy it online from pearlspremium.com. And right now, for this Earth Day celebration, we're selling it at a deep discount if you put in the discount code EARTH. And
yes. Actually, I told them that if they contact me and use a Better Worlds code, they'll get a special discount. So whichever. There you go.
And, we want to be kind to each other, dance, sing, plant sustainable grass, and plant flowers, and go for an aerobic walk or swim every day and be happy.
And roll on the grass. As an act of kindness, Jackson, can we see Zoe one more time?
Oh, yes. Zoe, hold
on. To bring forward some of the non-human world Jonathan and I were speaking about earlier.
Zoe's a big fan of the grass. She goes around the country and looks at grass. And as you can see over here on one side, we have a typical grass chock full of weeds. And this is the property line. And on this side, it's Pearl's Premium without any chemicals. The deep roots are outcompeting the weeds and the other grass. So you just put it over the existing grass to outcompete the weeds without chemicals. And Zoe inspecting everything. So this is Zoe, a happy dog and a healthy organic, living an organic life. And thank you so much for the opportunity to share this.
Absolutely. Jackson Madnick, thank you so much. So appreciate it. You're making a beautiful contribution to our world. And you too, Zoe. We love you. Do you believe that? Look at that punum, as we say in Chinese.
Give us all a wave for the future and the world.
That's right, exactly. Keep going, folks.
So I'd like to just offer everyone a 6-minute sound journey. And during this sound journey, you're going to hear my voice go into the, I think I decided to go into Notre Dame Cathedral tonight. How about that?
Wow.
Anyway, so I'm going to offer some music using the soprano sax, alto flute with some background sounds. And as you listen, just flow with it, just breathe. You can even do a visualization. You can picture yourself in a beautiful place. You can feel yourself breathing in tranquility, breathing out any form of negativity. And at the end, I'll just do a brief mantra, which you're all welcome to join me on. And that mantra is simply these words: love is God's life breath within us. And on that note, we offer you some music of peace. Thank you. Life breath within us. Love is God's life breath within us. Love is God's life breath within us.
Beautiful. Primek, beautiful.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you for that gift. So I'm going to share a couple of thoughts about sort of what goes on. Are you able to see me? I can hardly see myself, but all right, great. A couple of thoughts of some of what came into us all this evening, as well as some thoughts about related to the work that I do and the thoughts that I think about how to metabolize, if you will, all that we've been discussing tonight and the related conditions of this moment during COVID. And, you know, there's a lot to say. I'm not going to say it all. I'm going to be relatively brief here. But I do want to say that to take in our first keynote speaker this evening, Dr. Guy McPherson, he's a scientist. The rest of us may be scientifically oriented from time to time, but we're not formally trained as scientists. He is. And when he discovers what he has about what we have done to disrupt the ecosystem in such ways by our trapping greenhouse gases and that leading to what we call global warming, and as Robin Williams, I like to quote, calls it global grilling. We're in trouble, my friends. We are truly in deep trouble. There's no question about it. You'd have to be blind or maybe the President of the United States not to see it. Sorry, couldn't resist. It's really a very serious thing. It's like we're going over Niagara Falls in a barrel. It's serious. We experience it daily. And, well, there's also good news. Even though the ice is melting at a phenomenal rate. It's changed the level of water in our oceans. The currents are warming. I don't have to go through the details, chapter and verse, what we have done. I think the people who are listening, our other panelists, are pretty aware of the damage we have done to Mother Earth. And of course that we're doing ourselves. It's like walking on a plank and sawing it off at the same time. It's literally a suicide mission, what we've been on. And for lots of reasons, we as a species have been blind to what it is we are doing to our own habitat. And that's ultimately, of course, what it is. But I will say that, you know, dim as it looks sometimes and grim as it appears, there's a whole other story that's underlying this and unfolding. And various speakers tonight gave us some sense of that, some inkling. One of the things that was discussed by Ellie Lesson, for instance, was about the work of Paul Hawken, who in the Drawdown book, as I mentioned earlier, the most comprehensive plan ever proposed to reverse global warming, we talk about mitigation, we talk about slowing it down, but how often do we talk about reversing it? That's bold. That's audacious. And I want to remind everyone of one of my teachers going back some years was Werner Erhard, the founder of EST and what we know today as the Landmark Forum, which before this iteration was just known as the Forum, who was part of, as was Lynn Twist, the co-founder of the Pachamama Alliance, what is known as, to this day, the Hunger Project. I think back in 1974, they launched that. And they proposed in 1974 to end world hunger by the year 2000. Now, 2000, from the point of view of 1974, looked like a magical, mystical future date. And between 74 and 2000, anything could happen. Well, we passed 2000. And we didn't exactly end world hunger. That's true. But you know what distance we took and got there? How close we have come? It's remarkable. And because of the commitment made in 1974 or so about ending world hunger by a small group of committed citizens, as Margaret Mead would refer to it as, moved the dial tremendously, significantly, statistically, measurably toward the desired outcome of ending world hunger. I don't know if it's 70% or 75% or 68%. Sorry, I don't have my exact metric, but it was something profound. And that was born out of the commitment. So I'm bringing this up right now to remind us all of this extraordinary human power that we all have. When we speak about human potential, for instance, one of my most favorite subjects, we hardly even really know what we're talking about. You know, it's not the human brain memorizing more facts, but it's more like maybe what we refer to as intuition, clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, being able to feel through time. We think about time as purely linear, but all of the traditions of wisdom, all of the mystical and esoteric teachings show us that time is also spherical, it's circular, it's multidimensional. Now, because of that, our ability to move like shamans, like medicine men, through and with time, everything changes. And I want to go back to what the brilliant scientist Guy McPherson was sharing with us earlier. And one could say, oh my God, The jig is up. We're finished. But I want to say a few things first. Science unfolds by linear time. It follows and behaves by a certain logic, a rational logic, one that we all appreciate. It serves us in many profound ways. I am a lover of science. However, there is a quote that I'd like to share with you about essentially the nature of reality. And it comes to us from St. Augustine. And he said about nature that miracles are not contrary to nature, but only contrary to what we know about nature. And to me, that's an extremely profound statement. It suggests that we really know so little. Our humility, I feel, is one of our guides into the future, and our willingness to not know is another, and our willingness to act no matter what the outcome is another one of our profound guides. We just witnessed some extraordinary, some could call miracles. We know in science why it makes sense. But with the cessation of society's industry of cars and trucks and buses and trains ripping through our environment, through our landscape, with the stoppage of oil tankers in the ocean, of oil drilling and production, refineries, of all the means of production across our entire society. In China, in Shanghai, they have seen blue skies. They didn't believe, almost like Plato's cave, that there were blue skies. They heard about it, they saw it in the movies, but they hadn't experienced it directly because it's that polluted. I know, I've been in Beijing, I've been all throughout China. It's polluted. And same thing in India, following our West's model, our footsteps. They can see the Himalayas. In certain towns and villages, they could not see the Himalayas. Now they can. Fish jumping and playing in Venice in the canals. That hadn't been the case either. Across New York City, we are breathing fresh air in the streets that are usually somewhat polluted. So what we have seen, my friends, is this extraordinary regeneration of Mother Earth. We see that the intelligence of Mother Earth is way beyond our ability to even imagine, let alone document scientifically. Because as St. Augustine says, whether it's miracles or just the limitations of science, there is much more to be seen in this philosophy. We don't know what else there is. Given nature the slightest elbow room not to be offended, if you will. I'm anthropocentrizing it a little bit, pomorphizing it, to be offended by our harmful, destructive ways. For just a little bit of time, what has it been, 2 months? And already she is showing signs of rejuvenation and regeneration. I think this is something to let resonate in our bones about the future. There is a lot to be thankful for. There is a lot to be look forward to. And as Paul Hawkins said in his Blessed Unrest that I made reference to earlier, there are literally millions of organizations that are doing grassroots work, no pun intended, Jackson, grassroots work to bring us back to harmony with the planet. And as Jonathan Grenoff was so beautifully articulating, that's where we belong. It's the indigenous wisdom, and we are all indigenous. And it's something else to remember. We are all of the land. and we have a certain native wisdom. All of us. Has nothing to do with skin color. It has to do with listening and connecting. And when we do those things, or do the Qigong as Kathy Davis was walking us through, we connect in a mighty way. I also want to remind everyone of the power of ourselves, i.e. human potential, that mind over matter is a subject that has been of great interest to people throughout time. Moving objects with our mind is actually not a new phenomenon. It has happened. The role of the mind in health and healing is profound, anciently and modernly, contemporarily. We know the role the mind plays. Neuroscience, neuropsychology, spiritual understanding, the role of science in metaphysics. All of this is demonstrating over and over again the power of the morphogenetic field, the reality of quantum fields, and how, when we work with these phenomena, when we work with language, when we work with intention, we change things. We change things inside of ourselves. We can see ourselves as a quantum field, and we can see the earth, which looks so solid, also as a field of energy that is swirling and dancing and moving. Now, she is going to live, whether we do for a long, long time, I don't know. But I will say that we have a chance, and it's never healthy on any level to say, no, we don't, and to live a life of purpose, of meaning, of joy, of love, of excitement, of values that we can stand by and be honored by, and to honor makes life juicy up to the last minute. And that's the kind of attitude that I share with my clients, with my students, with my friends. That this is the perspective, no matter how darn difficult it appears out there, we can move through this with some level of grace and elegance ourselves. I also want to say that, yes, another fun thing. Recently, I was giving a talk at Shivananda Yoga Ashram, where I've been teaching for some 20 years, first time on Zoom, just this past weekend. And I said, you know, it's thought that Darwin was right when he said, it's the survival of the fittest. And I'd like to make a little modification of that idea. And also many people say that he actually didn't say that. That's another conversation. But I would rather put out that it is the survival of the resilient. And just as others were saying earlier of blowing in the wind, it's of great value to us to move like the willow, resilient, soft, breezy. And it's also good to stand like the oak. And when you put these two together, this equals woke. And if we can waken, we can be awoke. And we can really, with love in our heart, with sensitivity, and with the commitment that I was speaking of earlier, really take a next step. Now, in wrapping this up, I want to just say a couple of words about what I do here at A Better World. Many of you have known of A Better World for many years. As Rick said earlier, we've been around since 1993. When I first started this, I was inspired by one of my teachers, Gary Null, who had me on his PBS specials and documentaries and all, and I got inspired to use media as a means of healing, as a means of education and inspiration, driving people toward a better life. Well, I do the media, radio, TV, for all of these years. And I also, besides seeing clients, work on projects. I work with Jackson Madnick, for instance, on the green lawn seed. I work with others on a breakthrough wind technology, which will change the question of economic justice because it costs less than a penny per kilowatt hour when we get this launched in approximately 6 or so months. I work with a solar team to bring solar energy to many places that are interested in utilizing photons. So there are many things that are going on. I'm working with an inventor down in Florida who has a real, not just a water car, a water motor that takes not just the hydrogen, but also the oxygen out of water. And it emulates lightning and clouds. It's biomimicry based. And in these ways, we can get out of 1 gallon of water the equivalent of 1,100 gallons of oil. That's the equivalent. So there is creativity, there is inventiveness across the board. It's beautiful. And if we can harness our minds first and our actions together in harmony, we can really not only create a better world, but a surviving, sustainable, and thriving one. So I wanted to share all that with you. That's part of the vision and the activity of a better world here on this planet in 2020. I encourage everybody to continue on their paths and make this world a better place for everybody. So I want to thank you all. There's one person, I don't know if he's still with us, Bill Garrett.
He's still here.
I'm here.
Okay, great. Even though that all sounded very conclusive, I'll say a final remark after giving Bill just a few minutes. I'm sorry, Bill, you sort of missed your main limelight, but do come in for a few minutes and share with us a couple of things that you're working on because they're so beautiful and so important.
Okay. We're ready to go?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll ring a bell, and that means wrap it up.
Well, this is a lot different than what I was planning. But okay, thanks for inviting us to speak here. We're the Harlem Climate Caucus, and we have just 2 missions. Raise awareness of dangerous, disparate impacts climate change will impose on low-resource communities and the people who live in them, predominantly people of color, people with disabilities, and others outside the mainstream. We hope to empower these people with the information and on how they can more rapidly cut greenhouse gas emissions. Okay. Each year, human activities force 10 billion tons of carbon into the atmosphere, where it can remain and continuously keep overheating the planet for as long as 1,000 years. Most of the carbon gets into the planet in the form of CO2. The carbon in the CO2 traps heat, forces it into Mother Earth oceans, lakes, rivers, land masses, glaciers, and ice sheets, including the Arctic and the Antarctic. It's like having billions of tiny little blowtorches entering our atmosphere and scorching everything on Earth and growing bigger and bigger each year. The higher the atmospheric carbon concentration becomes, the more the heat pushes itself into Earth's surfaces, moving us closer and closer to permanent climate disaster at a faster pace towards destruction. So where does this carbon coming from? It's really easy. Burning oil, natural gas, coal, and other fossil fuels. And so each of these things, when you burn them, guess what? They emit CO2. And there's about 1.3 billion engines that operate on Earth, forcing and forcing and forcing more of these little blowtorches into the planet. So I'm trying to jump through here what I wanted to say. The second
Bill, let me guide you for a moment because we have so little time. We've been on
Okay,
since
yeah.
6 o'clock, and I know you have so much to share. But because we know the dangers, you are also a man of solutions. I know because you shared some with me earlier. Could you just give us one or two of those that you have been working on that you want to bring to the city of New York?
Sure. We call this co-pro technologies. And the production begins with digesting materials from waste streams without the presence of oxygen. This produces methane. The methane is then split into the carbon and hydrogen that it's made out of. The carbon is processed into very valuable carbon allotropes, including graphene, nanotubes, and diamond-like materials. Once the allotropes are produced, the carbon cannot return to the atmosphere. It's sequestered here forever. I'm skipping through things. Graphene is especially important. It's 100 times stronger than steel, more conductive than copper, lighter than aluminum. The valuable allotropes can be sold as sustainability materials that can make our economies more efficient and our world sustainable. The hydrogen that gets released from the methane molecule is combined with CO2, nitrogen, and other atmospheric substances to produce a liquid fuel at ambient temperatures and pressures. This means that fuel can be delivered to furnaces, automobiles, engines, all over power plants with the existing infrastructure. No need to spend trillions of dollars, which we're planning to spend now to have more central power plants. So when that fuel burns, when it finally gets to the boiler or it gets to the engine and it burns, the only thing in the fuel that burns is the hydrogen. And the only thing it emits is water. So what happens to the rest of it? That was borrowed from the atmosphere in the first place, and it returns to the atmosphere. That means no increase in atmospheric carbon. And so, let me see.
Give us one more point, and then we'll call it a night.
Water vapor, okay, no increase in atmospheric carbon. Let me just see if we say that one.
Although that last one was a real good doozy.
Yeah, right. I just wanted to mention that the co-pro technologies are backed by over 30 years of research and development and 250 issued U.S. patents. To get a U.S. patent, the applicant must prove the invention works, and people with the appropriate skills can produce it. All this may sound too good to be true, but it's not. It's simply the magic science, the magic of science, and nothing more. Widespread use of these technologies can cure Mother Earth's fossil fuel infection and put nature back in control of global temperature changes, like it was for millions and millions of years prior to burning carbon.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Well, thank you.
You read your bio. You're so welcome. I really appreciate it. I'm sorry you had technical difficulties. We would have had a little more time for you then in a little more of an elegant way, but I'm glad that you did get a chance to come in and share with our audience and our group. And keep up the good work, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Okay, and I really appreciate this whole day. I've been to a lot of Earth Days, but this has got to be the best.
Oh my God, we are truly honored. Bill Garrett, thank you again.
And all this.
For your
So
good work.
thank you again for having me, and I will look forward to meeting with you, Mitchell.
Excellent. Beautiful. It's so interesting. People who say they're retired are doing more work now than they've done in their whole lives. Well, I look forward to that. I don't know if I'll ever use the word, but nonetheless, it's not a word actually in my vocabulary. I believe that Bill is right. We have really honored Earth Day today, the 50th anniversary. Andrew Kane, Rick Olphick, all of the presenters today have been extraordinary, gifted, loving, thoughtful, creative people. Our keynote speakers, Guy McPherson and Jonathan Grenoff, and everyone who participated today to help us. Karen Palmer getting us back onto Facebook Live. That's beautiful. We really appreciate everyone's participation and contribution. I really do feel that we honored the 50th anniversary with a lot of love, with tremendous respect for Mother Earth, for understanding that we are the Earth and she is us. The notion of separation that Evan Pritchard helped us understand is not there. The separation between mind and body is not there. The separation between any of us is not there. It's illusory. And I think that we came together in a way and we proved that reality for us all. So we can play our role going forward into next year. And I'm going to just thank all of you for your participation. You're a gift to us all. And all of you who may be watching from any corner of the world, thank you for your rapt attention. So www.mitchellrabin.com, that's my healing coaching website, mitchellrabin.com, and www.abetterworld.tv. Sign up for our newsletter, become part of a Better World family. We welcome you. We broadcast around the world. Be part of it. Andy Kane, Rick Ulfick, thank you again for your beautiful work, diligence, commitment.
Yes, and don't forget to go to we.net, where you can be part of all the work that We the World is doing with the 11 campaigns for change, 11 days of global unity. And Andrew, do you want to give people the Planet Heart website?
PlanetHeart.org is the website for Planet Heart, these events that we do for World Peace Earth Day.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you all. This has really been an extraordinary evening. Thank you all. And go ahead, Mitchell, you can bring us to our close.
Yes, this is it, folks, for this year. We have the 51st year to look forward to. Take care of yourself. Don't be intimidated by COVID. Take good care of yourself. Listen to common sense. God knows. But empower yourself. Empower your immune system. Things as simple as vitamin C, A, D, zinc, selenium do the trick. We know it. It's being used in China. It's being used right here. Meditate. Realize mind over matter. Do what you can. Laugh a lot. Remember, I should have invited you all to my Immortalist Club. Yeah, we have an Immortalist Club. You have to be agree to be 150, and then you have to renew at 149. And look, if we do it in the body or we don't, we're going to do it. So we're multidimensional beings. Stick with it, folks. We're here for the long term. Thank you so much. I'm signing off, Andy. Take over. It's all
okay.
You, babe. I love you all.
Okay, thank you so much, Mitchell, for everything, for doing this.
My pleasure.
And Angelica, can you do a final word for us?
Yes, thank you. Holy Father, Mother God, behold thy children coming together to heal the earth and to heal each other, to restore the sanctity of family life. At last, thy children are awakening to our reality as one spiritual family, praying to be worthy of thy grace and fulfillment of our divine destiny. So be it, and so it is, ever expanding and world encompassing. We accept it then, in God's most holy name, in God's most holy way, in God's most holy love. So be it. Amen and amen. I am.
Thank you.
Yay. Yeah,
Thank
you
you,
very
everybody.
much.
Mitchell, great job.
Thank you.
May peace prevail on earth.
Thank
you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
May peace prevail on earth.
Thank you. It was a wonderful combination of textures, meaning, and message tonight.
Exactly.
Namaste.
Eris for peace and peace.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Gloria.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Remember, we're going from me, the three fingers down, to we, three fingers up.
Oh.
Okay, bye-bye.